And good morning again, everyone. It is a Saturday morning, July the 7th, 2025. July the 7th, July the 5th. Write that down right, Peter. 2025, 710 KNUS. The weather, well, here we go. It's going to be 90 for the high today, and there's going to be some rain this afternoon, and tomorrow, Sunday, much the same. Back to work Monday, just in the 90s. We got a good show. I got some good open lines ideas, but now Colorado, the legislators have passed these new gun laws, and they're really, really frightening. And we're going to have with us early, probably in the first part of the new hour, Ian Escalante, Executive Director of the Rocky Mountain Gun Owners Association. I spoke with him, and these laws, these new rules are quite scary. And then we're going to have Sheriff Reams with us starting August 1st, 2006. The manufacture, sale, and purchase of semi-automatic firearms, the ones detachable mags, are going to be outlawed in Colorado. And the law was signed by Governor Polis, and it includes ARs and AKs, as well as a long list of other Senate Bill 3. The tactical shotguns are part of that as well. A number of handguns will be on the list as well. But when it gets down to it, they're going to ask the sheriffs to get involved with this. And I called the sheriff this morning to talk to him about it. And I said, would you come on the show? The banned weapons will be available to and actually it ends up with the sheriff. And the sheriff will have to do background checks. And as you now know, I'm going back to my notes, the Democrats passed this year these dozen bills imposing new gun regs, and they're all signed by the governor, and they include measures limiting those who can purchase most semi-automatic rifles on the market today, raising the minimum age to buy ammunition, and they're all saying they want to improve Colorado's response to mass shootings. Does anybody think that these laws will do any good at all? And number two, what do you think the true purpose of all these laws are? The measures including who can purchase the semi-automatic rifles, raising the minimum age to buy ammunition, and they don't go into effect until next year, but a few of them went into effect on the 1st of July, and there's a breakdown, and it goes something like this. Starting August 1, manufacturers' sales and purchase of certain semi-automatic firearms can accept the ones with detachable mags will be outlawed in Colorado. ARs and AKs. Also, the banned weapons would be available. But the part about what you and I have to do, and again, going back to all the notes that I must have downloaded about 35 pages of this stuff. But the measures include requirements, trace requests received from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Explosives, provide documents on theft and loss. Sellers would be required to disclose their policies to prevent, detect, and screen for illegal gun sales. I'm looking for the part that I had a moment ago. I was reading stuff to the guys over the phone lines. Here we go. And it's frightening. It's going to end up where the sheriffs, and there we go. I was told that was a bucket of, there was a word that came after it, and it's going to be dumped on the sheriffs of counties because no one else wanted to do it. The other thing in open lines this morning that I'd like to talk about is the Secretary of, now it's RFK Jr., Health and Human Services Secretary RFK Jr., and they want to ban, and I think this is an interesting topic, they want to ban or vow to end drug ads. And it's if you watch television, you undoubtedly have seen them, horseback riding, guys shooting pool, sitting in outdoor bathtubs, a list of effects called Ask Your Doctor. Drug commercials on television, one of the weird quirks, writes the columnist on American Culture. Only the United States, I didn't know this, only the United States of America and New Zealand are the only countries that allow drug makers to advertise directly to consumers. Now the nation's top health official, RFK Jr., has been promising to ban pharmaceutical advertising on television, arguing there is a major reason why Americans, you and I, are consuming too many drugs. And the pharmaceutical industry spends, I did not know this, $5 billion a year on national television spots. It is a commercial message that Wall Street has talked about. And if Kennedy follows through, all the ads get jammed. The other thing, I mean, we got a bunch of good stuff for open lines. President Trump wants UFC fights on the White House lawn. And who would you like, this is a good one, who would you like to see fight? It's going to be Washington, D.C. fights, and we could have Denver fights. Who would you like to see fight? Who should, and again, watching the pros, and he's going to bring Dana White into this, and it's going to be, the real professional UFC MMA fighters. And Trump he's gone to the fights. You've seen him go to the fights a lot, and he hosts the fights, the Trump Taj Mahal in Atlantic City, and he's a friend of Dana White's, and Dana White's the man. And they said, and matter of fact, if you remember, Dana White introduced Donald Trump at the Republican National Convention, and the press secretary said they're dead serious about this. So we got to start in open lines, 303-696-1971. I'll give you a choice where you want to go. Who would you like to see fight? Legitimately, who would you like to see fight? There are any number. And who would you like to see fight in Denver? We were talking about this. We could do Denver fights. Who would you like to see fight in Denver, Colorado? Get in the ring and fight. Who would you like to see fight in Washington, D.C.? There are a number of people that I would like to see fight in Washington, D.C., and the president wants the fights on the lawn. Also, pulling ads. If you watch television, undoubtedly you've seen, and most of the time, it's sort of a challenge. If you watch the evening news, you'll see it's all underwritten by drug makers. And what I did not know is that American culture and New Zealand, the United States of America and New Zealand, are the only countries in the world that allow drug makers to advertise directly to consumers. And RFK Jr. has been promising to ban pharmaceutical advertising on television, arguing that it's the main reason. You think about that, and Adam and I were talking about it before the show started. They always show somebody with a problem, and then they introduce the drug, and then they show the same person that had the problem now running or walking without a cane or sleeping nights or whatever it is that this drug promises to take care of. And the television networks are really, really frightened about this because so much money, a ban would be a major blow to the television networks, who are already in trouble reeling from people canceling and going to cable or going to direct TV. Pharmaceutical industry spends more than $5 billion a year on national television sales. And the Wall Street analysts have talked about Kennedy's threat. It's hard to turn on television without seeing something, some sort of commercial for drugs. And I didn't know that it's just us in New Zealand. Should we ban drugs on television? It's, again, would it do good? Is it more the example of the gun laws? And the gun laws, I was trying to find my stack of notes on how this would, and it really has some background stuff that you and I are, well, you're going to have to do now to buy, sell, or to get a gun, and it's here it is. If the state receives sufficient, and again, the funding on this, a person, you and I, would be able to, well, if someone tries to buy a gun while their waiver is in effect, now you're going to be subject to fines. These laws take effect next November. The AK and AR-15s are done. And do you have one? And banned weapons would only be available to anyone who otherwise is allowed to purchase a gun that has a magazine with a maximum capacity of 15 rounds. And here's the part that's going to be on the show when Sheriff Reams comes on. Consumers will be able, if you go to, you have to be vetted by the county sheriff and complete up to dozens, they say, dozens of hours. I don't know what that total number would be of training and passing a test. It's called Senate Bill 3. It's gone into effect in August of next year. Will affect tactical shotguns and a small number of handguns. I was listening to Caldera talk about their shotgun shoot. So starting August 1st, 2026, the manufacture, the sale, and purchase of semi-automatic firearms that can accept detachable ammunition magazines will be outlawed in Colorado. And that was signed by Governor Polis. Ban weapons. The ban also calls for so-called rapid-fire trigger devices, bump stocks, which can make semi-automatic weapons fire at a similar rate of that of an automatic gun. Semi-automatic guns fire bullets each time the trigger is pulled. The automatic weapon now will be continuous. Also, if the state, again, the state can do all, I'm befuddled by this stuff. And the stack of pages of these ads, it's like the big, beautiful bill. What good will it do? 303-696-1971. What good will these gun laws do? What do you think the true purpose is? So we're going to be all over the boards this morning. Ian Escalante will join us. We'll get the sheriff on because it gets dumped into his lap. And at the same time, watching the fights just between the idea, who would you like to see in Denver fight? I could give you a list. Who would you like to see fight in Washington, D.C.? The president wants UFC fights in the White House. And then last but not least, we can talk about the grocery strike. And it's been settled, but it has not been settled. So 12 gun bills are passed by the Colorado legislators, and now they've gone into effect. And some of it it's very scary. And the question is, what's the true purpose of these laws? And what good are they? Lines are filling up. We're ready to go. We go up to the start in Greeley. This is Jerry. Hey, Jerry, you're calling the radio show this morning. Thank you.
Good morning, Peter. You mentioned Senate Bill 3, and you said certain semi-automatic handguns would be affected.
Yes.
Dave Kopel at the Independence Institute, he co-authored a piece a few months ago, and he and his co-author go into great depth to explain that the fuzzy and somewhat contradictory wording in the bill, if you really analyze it deeply, it means that almost every semi-automatic handgun and long gun would be affected. And their position is that the wording of the specificity about the action types was deliberately confusing and spread out through the bill so that most people wouldn't get it. And you can find that, at the Independence Institute archives.
Well, I just found all my notes. I have a big stack of things on my desk, and now I found the notes and all the points that I wanted to do or get over. And you're right, including, do you know that they have employee requirements in a gun shop? Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Okay. If you're working in a gun shop, and you're a licensed dealer, you must submit to fingerprints and complete a training course set by the state of Colorado to be an employee in a gun shop.
Nice.
No, I didn't know. Like I said, I brought all this stuff in. Enhanced training, requirements for obtaining or renewing a concealed carry. I have a CCW. Including now you have to do 8 hours of in-person training covering topics like safe storage, handling, and live fire exercises. In other words, you have to shoot in front of a state employee.
Right.
You have to have live fire training. It has to be, again, a component of a CCW, background checks and training. The new law will restrict the sale of certain semi-automatics, you're talking about that, that can accept the detachable magazines, and buyers must pass background checks and concealed firearms safety courses. And the big one was you must keep if you're doing a carry in your vehicle, that you have to keep the carry in a locked box. I'll read this to you. Colorado now requires firearms to be stored in a locked container or a case when transported in your vehicle. Now, what's the purpose of having a CCW and having a firearm, having a handgun, and you have it locked down? Jerry, it's yours.
Well, my understanding about that one is that only applies to an unattended vehicle, so a parked vehicle with nobody in it. So while you're driving, you can be armed, no problem. But yeah, with the locked box thing, my research indicates that a locked center console or a glove box, that's sufficient for a handgun. And for the long guns, that you've got to read it really closely. But my takeaway was, if it's in a locked hard-sided case, okay, that's great. But if it's in a soft case, then that soft case, the zipper basically has to be locked, and there has to be an action lock, like a cable threaded through the action. But can I go back to Senate Bill 3 real quick,
Oh, sure,
Peter?
of course.
Another point that Kopel and his co-author made was that there's great discretion given to the state attorney general as to how and when to enforce the provisions of Senate Bill 3. So they were somewhat theorizing that to make somewhat less backlash, that they might crack down slowly over time. In other words, not fully enforce, the total ban on every semi-automatic that they could until they get until it gets more palatable.
It's the frog in water,
right?
And the laws that went into effect July the 1st of this 4 days ago, they're tools for They claim tools for firearm safety, storage, and purchase and sale of certain firearms. New requirements for concealed carry permits, restrictions on the sale of semi-automatic weapons or some semi-automatics, and changes for firearms dealers' licensing. Do you think any of that will stop mass shootings or shootings in general?
Well, of course not. I mean, that's just bogus as can be, and we all know that's just the cover story. It's like the Alinsky dictum that the issue is never the issue. There's always a real underlying issue.
And the part about being an employee, and I didn't realize this until I read it. I mean, if you're going into work, the employee of firearms dealers, licensed dealers, must offer up in terms of training, and failure to do so, the state can step into the dealership. Now, that's powerful.
Yep, it's all wrong, but I better get off and let somebody else
on. All right,
on,
you
Peter.
got it, man. Thanks.
You.
All right, we're close to a turnaround. 303-696-1971. Ian Escalante is coming up on the show. Sheriff Reams will be on the show. Who would you like to see fight? Who in Denver would you like to see get in the ring together? 90 would be the high. Stay here. 710 KNUS, we're Denver's talk station.
Your 4th of July weekend will be seasonably warm. Temperatures close to average. Highs 80s to near 90. Today and Sunday, overnight low temperatures in the upper 50s and lower 60s. Monsoonal moisture is around, so with daytime heating, there will be ample opportunity for scattered late-day showers and thunderstorms through the weekend. Little change in the weather, steady temperatures, and late-day thunderstorm activity for Monday and Tuesday. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
We have a line open. It's Saturday morning, July the 5th, 2027. I'm Peter Boyles, 710 KNUS. Saturday weather, 90 the high, 90 again on Sunday. Look for a little bit of rain. Ian Escalante coming up, Sheriff Reams coming up. The gun laws, back to the phones we go. One line's open. This is Carolyn. Carolyn, thanks. You're on the radio show. Good morning.
Good morning, Pete. I had a couple of options for fights that would be interesting.
All right.
I would love to see, and I don't like the fights, by the way, but I think this is pretty fun. I think we should have Lauren Boebert and AOC on the White House lawn.
I thought Marjorie Taylor Greene and AOC on the White House lawn.
That could work. And
Yep.
how about we got to find someone to go up against Bennett? Michael Bennett and Chicken Pooper both need.
Dan
Caplis.
Caplis. I put Caplis in the ring against.
Dan Caplis.
He's going to fight Bennett. Yeah, to fight Bennett.
Oh.
Yeah, that'd be a
I'm
good one.
good with that. Thank you.
No. It's not, there's more to come. Thank you.
Okay.
Who would you like? Again, think of the people that could fight in the city. Think of the people that could fight in Washington, D.C. Who would Chuck Schumer fight? Put Chuck Schumer in there. Or put Bernie in there. Bernie Sanders is like putting me in there. I mean, think about the good fights that you could put in Washington, D.C. Or better yet, build a ring in Denver. Watch them go. We'll go back to the phones. There's a line open. This is Herb. Herb in Denver. Hey, man, thanks and good morning and welcome to the show.
Hey, I just want to say it was great seeing you at the Glendale Chamber of Commerce VIP party. You and the Chuck and Drew sitting and chatting.
Yeah, watch, we got invited. I write for the paper, but they had a VIP party to watch fireworks. And you know how much money they think I asked the mayor how much money those fireworks cost or the whole Megillah cost. It was pretty expensive. I didn't realize fireworks were that expensive.
Yeah, and they had a great show. It lasted about 15 minutes.
It was a great show. Yeah. Well, that was sitting out literally underneath the fireworks instead of seeing them at a distance. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
That was a good one.
Good fun. Good seeing you.
You
so,
too.
who we put in the ring? I want to see Polis fight somebody.
All right, Polis versus Dan Caplis.
Oh, wow. He's clean as clock.
Let's see. Think about the people that could fight. The mayor. There'd be a line of guys volunteering to fight the mayor.
Oh, yeah.
Who else? Who?
Well, I'd like to see the other gentleman fight. I don't know why I use that term gentleman lightly. Our Attorney General, what's his name? What's his name, that guy?
Put the AG in.
Yeah. He's another one I'd like to. I'd rather actually see him fight somebody. Who we put against him? Sheriff Reams.
Sheriff Reams is a tough guy. So President Donald Trump wants UFC fights on the White House lawn. So I'm thinking to myself, well, Peter, who would you like to see really fight on the White House lawns? And then I thought to myself, what about Denver? Put a ring up in City Park or Cheeseman Park, and who would climb in there and go? And I was thinking about when Al Zato fought Muhammad Ali, and when Al Zato thought he could fight Muhammad Ali, and what Ali did to him. But think about the people. How about in the entertainment or the news and business, television, radio? Who would you like to see fight? That would be fun.
Oh, what's that sport code boy from Channel 9?
Kyle Clarke.
Oh, boy. We need him in a lot.
Get Kyle Clarke. Who would you put in a ring with Kyle Clarke?
Tough Denverite. Well...
No, I'm thinking about it. Who would you put in the ring with Kyle Clarke?
John Caldera.
Nah, John's too old. He's too old. He'd gas. Maybe Jeff Hunt.
Oh, wow. That's a good answer.
Yeah, get Jeff Hunt in the ring. I mean, they talk about Kyle Clarke all the time. Let him get in the ring. think it would be.
Hey, I gotta go to synagogue. So good chatting with you.
Thank you, sir. Be safe. All right, we go here. This is Matt in Littleton. Hey, Matt, you're on the show Saturday morning. Thank you.
Hey, Peter. So good to be with you. Happy 4th, of course.
Thank you, brother.
You know, thank you, sir. One of my concerns when Trump got in the White House was everything's all good now from a country perspective, conservatives. And what we found is places like Colorado, Pete, are actually more Democrat, more extreme since he took office. And so I don't know if people yet realize you will have to take back your state because there is no help coming from Washington. And then, you know, states like New York that want to go get a Muslim mayor and all these things, don't these cities kind of have to burn and crumple before they can come back?
Well,
it's not salvageable.
There's
right
a theory. There's a theory of history of that you know, you have to bottom before you can return.
Yes.
And no, it's true. I don't argue that, but at the same time, Colorado has literally gone to dirt under the Democratic Party. But that's the fault of the Republican Party for their behavior, allowing the Democrats to simply overrun. And these gun laws that we're talking about this morning are just incredible and brought to you by the Democratic Party.
Yes. And, you know, Pete, I could totally respect increased gun laws if they came reciprocal with, say, like, for example, the only reason we're scared of guns, and this isn't racist, this is just how the math works, is we've got about 3% of our population nationally committing 50% of our violent crimes. And so if Democrats are saying, hey, guns are the problem,
They're not.
We do need to make sure that they're not. But if these came with, okay, well, how about this? How about the inner city person that's caught with a gun outside of these new rules? Is that a life sentence? I mean, did they go ahead and up all the criminal charges for our scumbags?
But everything, and I'm not an attorney, I'm just a reader, everything that I've read has everything to do with the straights. It has to do with
That's right.
the merchants. It has nothing to do with criminals. I mean, I know there's gun laws that are connected to crimes, but these laws that took effect July 1 of 2025, they focus on legit folks.
That's right.
And to me,
and that's the diabolical nature, isn't
there
it,
you
of
go.
the Democrats? Right.
Yeah. So I wrote these on my worksheet. What good will the gun laws do, and what's the true purpose of the gun laws?
People stop buying guns. Pretty simple. It's not worth it. I won't be armed. Another gun out of a suburban housewife's purse. That when the migrant comes up to her, she better have the pepper spray ready, because other than that, he's going to snatch her purse, her kids, her car, and the whole thing. So to think of that, and I just think if you're a Democrat listener, Peter, this is really important. When you digest the core of Democrat policy, which is attack the innocent and defend the truly filthy, like to look at yourself in the mirror today as a Democrat, you just need a gut check, reality check. Am I the biggest scumbag walking, or what has happened to my life that I would support this stuff?
Understand that, again, when I listen to this the Democratic Party, these people truly believe that they're doing the right thing to disarm the country. And I see the same thing on these, and this, I realize that they are connected in a greater sense. Ending drug ads on television. It's RFK Jr. And I didn't know this, that only the United States of America and New Zealand allow pharmaceutical advertising on television. And so maybe this mindset of if you, and this is RFK's position, ban pharmaceutical advertising on television, arguing the major reason why Americans are consuming too many drugs is they're being promoted. The drugs are being promoted. And how many of those ads have you seen where some guy can hardly walk, or whatever's going on, can't sleep, or any number of things, and then he or she starts to take this drug, and now they're playing
volleyball.
Yeah, they're playing. Thank you. They're playing volleyball. So, And I say the same thing about soft drink ads and beer ads. They're, if you just replace the product, you have the same ad.
Right.
And they look.
That's totally fair.
Yeah, look great to young people, and everybody's swinging on a rope and dropping into the lake, and they're drinking Budweiser or they're drinking. No, seriously, they're.
Yeah. No, I know you're right.
No, they don't show the guy cook getting in the truck going home. You know?
No, they don't show the homeless guy who's lost everything. He's on the corner. You're so right. And I think what you're talking about, Peter, is we want to support every political party that's agenda and heart is to uplift the American people. And I think we know what lifts people up. Trans surgeries do not. Healthier lifestyles do. And so is it possible to get there, or is it if I pick this party, I have to suffer a certain number of things?
The Republican Party has to have a rebirth, and that's the first step. Thanks for the call, man. Good call. Thank you. All right. We go to Matt. Lines are open, 303-696-1971. Oh, it's Nick. Is it Nick? Nick, good morning, man. I apologize. Thank you.
No problem. I've been called worse. The two people I like to see in a fist fight or a mud fight is Daniel Jurinsky. I think that's her name.
Yeah.
The lady out in Aurora.
Yeah, City Council.
And Kyle Clarke.
Ooh. Danielle versus Kyle. Who do you like?
Yeah.
Who do you like?
I like Danielle.
You got her? I mean, make some book here. Make a little. What do you think?
Oh, at least 2-1 odds. At least.
Wow. So you bet $5, you get 10 if she wins. And what round? How many rounds would they go?
Oh, it'll take 10 seconds.
It's a 2-punch fight.
That's it.
We used to call those two hit fights. I hit you, you hit the floor. But that's what they were known as. 2-hit fights. I hit you, you hit the floor. So, yeah, that actually, so many people were volunteering to fight Kyle Clarke. Kaufman versus Johnson, that's a good one. The mayor of Aurora versus the mayor of Denver. That'd be a good fight. By the way, this is very clever. Thank you, man. That's smart. Think of how good these fights would be. Donald Trump.
Oh, they'd be well attended, believe me.
They really would be, wouldn't they?
You could make money off it.
We could
fix the potholes. Do something.
We could fix the streets.
Yes.
So Donald Trump wants the UFC fights at the White House, and that triggered who would you really like to see fight? And then I thought, well, we could have Denver fights and DC fights. Who would you like to see go?
To the DC fight?
Yeah. Who would you like to see Trump fight?
Kyle Clarke.
Everything gets back to Kyle Clarke. Oh man, who would you like to see Trump fight? Serious. I mean, these guys, everybody talks, but who would you like to see fight?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
There's so many. How
many they line up? Vance probably could slug, because.
Oh yeah, because he's a big guy and he was in the Marine Corps, and I'm sure he knows how to handle himself.
And he grew up tough, so maybe he'd be a slugger.
Yes.
Yeah, I got all these guys. Good thinking. Well thought.
Anyway, as far as just a general comment, you're absolutely right. The Democrats, by default, took over this state for the last 25 years because the Republican Party is completely inept. And until it gets a complete rebirth from the ground up, it's just going to get worse.
Indeed. And it is the fault of the Republican Party. It is not to be damned the Democrats. They're only doing what they think is right. The Republican, So
the Democrats have won by default.
Each and every time. Thanks.
Exactly.
Good call. Thank you, man. 303-696-1971. Coming up, Ian Escalante, Executive Director, Rocky Mountain Gun Owners, and we'll talk about these new laws. But I finally found all my notes that I had made, and Colorado has now enacted several new gun laws that took effect on the 1st of July. And it's not good. And then in August of 26, these other ones kick in and they're worse. Well, what is the purpose, the true purpose, and what good will, in fact, will these laws do? Also, the fights. Who would you like to see fight? We got a lot of people sending in text on this one. Donald Trump wants UFC fights in the White House. But who would you, if we roped off, we could have Cheeseman Park or City Park, rope it off, put a ring up. Who would you? We could have a card. We could have like seven card fight or 7 fight card and make book. We could have bookmakers over there. We could put some money down like Vegas. Who would you like to see go? 303-696-1971. 90 is going to be the high. Much again the same tomorrow. It is July the 5th. I'm Peter Boyles. This is 710 KNUS. Charlie Daniels. I had me a time with him. Saturday, July the 5, 2025, 7:10 KNUS. Sal's going to do it again. That's the song. And he, when I met him, and Bob Lee and I were working together at KLEK, and he brought the volunteer jam to town to play it. Marshall Tucker. Now the bridge is coming. Dickie Batts playing on the guitar. He says the South's going to do it again. Listen. All right, that line, that bridge line, the South's going to do it again, the Klan had taken. And now, mind you, this is years and years ago, but the Klan had lifted that part of Charlie Daniels, the South's going to do it again. And he was very upset. He was a great guy to talk to, and he was fun to be around, and I got a great Charlie Daniels story. I was with him twice, once actually here in town, and then once in Cheyenne. He played Frontier Days, and we were up there, but they had lifted that line. I'm happy to talk to you today about our friends at Water Pros, and Water Pros cares about the quality of your water. You can remove forever chemicals and microplastics and hard water with Water Pros. Take this, it's a whole water softener and a point of use reverse osmosis drinking water systems. And start the process, go to waterpros.net and sign up for your free in-home consultation. It's a gimme. Let them come out and test your water, and they do a good job. They'll come to your home, they'll test your water, answer all of your questions and concerns about your water. These guys are the best. We have this system in the house. Water Pros, family-owned, veteran-owned business, dedicated to providing you with the best water treatment for less than the other guys. Start here. Go to waterpros.net today. Request your free water test. 303-862-5554. It's easy. 303-862-3 5s and a 4. And they'll come to the house and they'll do the test. And you go from there. But get the info on your water. 303-862-5554 today. Let's see. Fights in Denver. We start with Dave. Dave's at the top of the shop. Dave, you're on the radio show. Good morning.
Good morning, Pete. Love the topic.
Thank you. I do too.
Hey, I was thinking for a Colorado fight, I'd like to see Tina Peters fight Jenna Griswold. Now, I know Griswold's got the young age there, but I hear Tina's been pumping serious iron while she's been in prison. And the last thing to go with the fighter is the strength factor, the power factor. So I think you make a good matchup. You
know what? What do you do when you go to the joint, man? You go to the iron pile and you start punching.
Exactly.
Yeah. Remember squat and cough. And you're going on the iron pile. Yeah. Good fight. Tina Peters and Jenna Griswold. Who do you like?
I go with Peters. The last thing you lose as an aging fighter is the strength.
Yeah, because she's in the joint. So what's she doing? She's lifting weights and eating heavy carbs and.
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah. Wow. Now we're going to do we're going to have boxing, MMA. Which do you choose to have them get in the ring to do?
Oh, MMA, 100%.
You're the man. and
hey, I'd like to hear a better person to fight Kyle Clarke too. But I did agree with your DC fight with Taylor Green against AOC. I think that would be a good bout too.
That would really be a good one too. Who do you like in that?
Taylor Green, man.
She's crazy.
She's ripped, man, and she works out, and I mean you can't disregard the factor of AOC. She kind of wants to come off as like a Hispanic street girl that's tough, so we would find that out.
Well, one thing for sure is because there was allegations about her and the trainers at the private club she went to, the gym she went to, and then you see her, she lay her ears back. She's about half nut. She's nuts. And you put her in the ring, tune her up, cut her loose, see what she does. You know what? I like her as a fighter. Yeah. Yeah.
What were the allegations from the gym owners about MTG?
She liked some of the young men that work there.
Ah, there we go. Well, you can't fault her for that.
You and I see the world.
She is married, though. She's married, though, isn't she?
Then she must have been in radio. But there was you can't look at her without thinking, she's on the edge over there. And who would you like to see Bobert fight?
Oh, no, that one.
Kyle Clarke.
Boy, I'm not really sure.
Kyle Clarke.
I was going to say that might be a better bout than you think. I can't see Kyle Clarke putting up much of a fight on anybody, tell you the truth,
Well, Bobert's like,
I was going to say.
Yeah, she's half tough. I like Bobert.
I was going to say Kyle Clarke versus one of the family members of Lee Keltner, maybe.
Ooh, ouch. Ooh, ouch. Ouch. All right.
Yeah,
right,
maybe
ouch.
that was a club for there a little bit, but I thought you cut me off right after I said that, but
I'm sorry. That's rough.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, we'll go to Don. Don, you're on the radio show. Good morning. It's July the 5th.
Hey, good morning, Peter.
Morning to you.
National level.
Yep.
Eric Sawwell.
Ooh.
Cash Patel.
I like Cash in that one.
Oh, hell yeah, he's a hockey player, man.
Yeah.
Plus, you look at him, he's built. Either him or Hagsteff against him.
There's two. Yeah, there's two. Which one's more nuts in the ring, do you think? I mean,
I got to go. Well, God, you got a guy who served, fought, probably put a few people into their place, but you got Cash. And, he's the deal about him and Don's hockey, right?
Yeah, I've heard. But I got to figure. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
They tried to accuse him of having a hockey team named after Trump.
Yep.
Little did they know that he was a hockey player named after Don Cherry.
That's
stupid Democrats.
We used to work with Don Cherry at KWBZ.
Did you really?
Yeah, he did hosted it. He was great. He brought his dog to work, and they used to call him Grapes. And he had a dog that he brought in the studio. Woody Page was there. And
where is Woody? Is he out in California or Vegas?
No, I actually saw him at Thanksgiving. I saw Woody at Thanksgiving.
Really?
Yeah, he's working. I think he's still doing the television show, and he's working. He's semi-retired. He's an old guy like me, and but we're sitting next to each other at Thanksgiving. He was at the other table, and we talked for a while. He's doing okay, for everything that was everything in Denver, and so much of it's now gone,
Yeah. Oh, I know. It's just we're old. My Denver card.
Yeah.
Kyle Clarke, and I'll spot him 40 years in me.
No, I mean you want to. How old are you, Don? How old are you?
I'm 74. I used to play a lot of ice hockey as a defensive man, and I'm still pretty lean.
You still got it?
I'm 5'11", 195. I hit the gym 3 or 4 times a week.
What's that country song? I ain't as good as I once was, but once I can. Yeah.
You know us old men, Pete. We ain't got an off switch.
Don't mess with old guys. Leave old guys.
I never believed that. I never believed that till I got older, and now I understand. You just don't care. So real quick on the pharmaceutical thing.
Yep.
I'd like to see RFK get something passed where you get all the candy and crap out of all the end caps and everything available for the little kids to reach their grubby little hands on.
Problem is First Amendment stuff, and I got to cut it. Don, great call. We're coming up on the end of the hour. Flip over. We're coming back on the other side with Ian Escalante and have a conversation about these. Now the laws that were enacted July 1 and the ones that are coming next August. Then we'll go back to open lines. Sheriff Reams will be with us. Stay here. And good morning, everyone. Second hour, Saturday morning, the 5th morning of July, 2025, 710 KNUS. We are Denver's talk station. Good to have you here in our open line segments. It's been fun stuff. The president has announced he wants UFC fights on the White House lawn. We thought, who would you like to see fight? And we started being matchmakers and bookmakers and funny stuff. We've been talking about also is pharmaceutical companies have shelled out big bucks to broadcasters putting ads on TV. And now Health and Human Services Secretary RFK Jr. wants to have those ads yanked. Only us, this country, United States and New Zealand, are the only countries, I didn't know this until I read it this week, that allow pharmaceutical advertising on television. In the meantime, welcome to the show. I'm really looking forward to this segment. I've been gearing for it. Ian Escalante is with us, Executive Director with the Rocky Mountain Gun Organization. And I want to thank Dudley Brown this morning as well. First of all, Ian, I know you're camping, so thanks for coming on the show. Let's see how this works. Good morning.
Good morning, Peter. It's good to be out here. I'm out here celebrating American independence out in the Gunnison National Forest in the beautiful Rocky Mountains. So I can't think of a better way to celebrate freedom and independence.
Well, you're coming in loud and clear for us, so that works. I've done some reading and talking about the new laws enacted in Colorado. There's a series, but the first series got enacted July 1, and then the other ones are coming in August of 26. First of all, you know what you ought to do, sir, before that? Do a background so folks know who you are. I know who you are, but if you would, for the audience, a little background on yourself.
Absolutely. Well, my name is Ian Escalante. I'm the Executive Director for Rocky Mountain Gun Owners. I've been Executive Director for RMGO for about a year now. And previously I worked as the capital lobbyist for Taylor Rhodes when he was at the helm of RMGO. So I've had experience, been involved in paid politics for about 8 years now. So I've worked in many different states, from the reddest of red to now the bluest of blue in Colorado. And hopefully, I love this state. I love the people here. There's a real spirit of freedom and independence that comes with being in the American West, and that's the main reason why I'm fighting so hard to make sure we can restore our state, because the fact of the matter is that our ancestors fought and died for our freedom. They fought and died so that we could win the West, and now we cannot stand idly by in good conscience and let it go towards the Soviet Union.
Yeah, we had this conversation in the last hour with a caller, and a few, as I do, dislike what we're seeing with the legislators passing these bills. You really can thank the Republican Party because of the weakness of the Republican Party not being able to defeat the Democrats. And so the Democrats are only doing what they believe is the right thing. And I make a worksheet for myself, and I wrote these questions down. What good will these gun laws do? Number one. Number two, what is the true purpose of these laws? They're not to, as they have put it forward, this to stop mass shootings. The measure, I'll read you from their press release. Their measure is limiting who can purchase semi-automatic rifles on the market, raising the minimum age to buy ammunition, aiming to improve Colorado's response to mass shootings. Now, and you know this, Ian, they believe this. And logic would tell us that none of these things will work, so there has to be another alternative. But there was no one there or enough of the opposition to either defeat the bill or reverse it. And so it really,
absolutely,
yeah. I mean, you know it, and I know it, and Dudley knows it. And it's the Republican Party is responsible for what's happening. It's just the sad truth.
Oh, I absolutely agree, and I would actually go a couple steps further. I think some of the legislators genuinely believe this, but also I think there are a lot of folks in the Democrat Party and in the legislature who are just disingenuous about wanting to keep people safe, because you and I both know that the best way to keep yourself safe is to be able to defend yourself, to have that ability.
Yeah.
And since Denver's become a crime-infested hellhole, I can't really walk down the street in downtown Denver unarmed and feel comfortable. So the aim here is not safety. The aim here is civilian disarmament. And the way I know this is because Mike Bloomberg and all of his advocacy groups have been passing laws just like they passed this year all over the country. You look at what they passed in Washington this year. They just passed a full semi-auto ban in Rhode Island, and the initial version of that bill gave the state police the power to come into your home and take your semi-auto rifle away.
Sure. Listen, it's coming, and it comes incrementally, it comes softly, but eventually it gets there. And I wrote down what good will these gun laws do if they're, as the Democrats have stated, they've passed these to aim to improve Colorado's response to mass shooting. I'm reading their words. Now, this is no more going to stop any of that than fly to the moon. So then I wrote to myself, so what's the true purpose? And I agree with you. The purpose is to disarm the country.
Absolutely, 100%. And I couldn't agree more about the total failure of the GOP in this state. And we have fought very, very hard to get good, solid pro-gun champions elected. But the problem is we see just as much opposition from the Republican establishment. I call them the Republican-controlled opposition groups. They oppose our candidates more than they oppose the Democrats. They'll spend $300,000-$400,000 trashing good, solid pro-gun grassroots candidates so that their corporate shills can get elected, and they're going to go and do whatever the donor class tells them to. They're going to do whatever the party bosses tell them to do, and they're not actually going up there to defend our rights. And you see that with the soon-to-be former Representative Ryan Armagost, who was grifting really hard on the so-called Second Amendment caucus. When it came down to it, when we were the Senate Bill 3, the huge semi-auto bill that now is going to force you to obtain multiple permission slips from the government to buy the most commonly used rifle in America, he wasn't even making sure the entirety of the caucus was there on the day of the vote. And in addition to that, he was actively undermining the work that RMGO was doing in order to curry favor with the enemy. So I couldn't agree more. We absolutely have to make sure that we have good, solid grassroots candidates running,
but
who aren't beholden to the party establishment.
But as a open critic of the Republican Party, and I don't want to spend time with this, but I've seen nothing. Bill Owens was the last Republican to hold statewide office, and I'm not talking about Board of Regents for CU. I'm talking about statewide office. And, and they have cut each other's throats. They have played this insane game that they've played. In the meantime, the Democrats, there used to be a line that the Democrats were a firing squad in a circle. Well, not anymore. They're pretty much lockstep. They keep their fights internal, not the Republicans. And so when it gets to stuff like this, these enacted new gun laws that took effect July 1st, if we could, Ian Escalante is our guest. So what took effect July 1, 2025? And I know you're just working and you're camping, but there's a focus of these people, and it has to do with, I call the civilians, the straights. It has nothing to do with criminals, does it?
No. The two major laws that took effect a few days ago were the new concealed handgun permitting law, where now you must, in order to obtain a concealed handgun permit, back in the early 2000s when Dudley first founded RMGO, the biggest fight of that time, and this was during Bill Owens' governorship, was shall issue concealed carry. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole with this, but more or less, if you don't know what shall issue concealed carry is, up until about the early 2010s, when the states really started passing constitutional carry,
right,
the big fight was over may issue or shall issue concealed carry. May issue meaning that whatever entity was in charge of issuing the permit. So in the state of Colorado, it was the sheriff. Mm-hmm. The state of Florida, it was the agricultural commissioner.
Yep.
They did not have to issue you the permit in a may issue state. They could just say, no, we don't like you. You don't get a permit.
Yep.
Shall issue said that if you did the qualification and you got your certificate, the sheriff had to issue you a permit within a certain period of time. Well, now they're raising the bar for that. You now have to take an 8-hour course.
Yep.
You have to pass a live fire exam with 80% or better. And then I believe you have to get, or I think it's 70% or better for the live fire. And then you have to take a written exam and pass it with 80% or better.
Yep.
So, and our critics always say, well, you don't like training. You don't like training. Why don't you want people to have training? Couldn't be further from the truth. If you're a new gun owner, training is an absolute must, but this has nothing to do with training.
Now it's
you look
required.
At what the curriculum is.
Yeah. I had an experience, and it was really interesting. I go to Sturgis every year on my bike, and
oh, that's cool.
And we were just a bunch of guys. And we were on a ride outside of Sturgis, and I was like Bellefouche or one of those towns in South Dak, and we stopped at a gas station grocery and went in, and a guy was carrying what we used to call cowboy guns, Colt 45.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to him, I see that you have open carry. And he said to me, and he said, no, he said, we have constitutional carry.
Yep.
What's the difference?
So constitutional carry, 29 states now have passed constitutional carry.
Yeah.
More than half the nation lives in a constitutional carry state, where it says that if you can legally purchase and own a firearm, you pass a background check, and you are able to have that firearm transferred to you, you can carry that firearm open or concealed without having to obtain a government permission slip. So some states like Colorado was open carry until they started allowing localities to ban it. But in our Constitution, it explicitly protects the right to open carry, but it also does not protect our right to concealed carry. So in the state of Colorado, you can open carry without a permit. So we have open carry, but if you're going to conceal that firearm, if you put a jacket on and you don't have a permit, you're now a criminal.
Now, I have a CCW. What's called, they call it enhanced training in the, I got the Democratic playbook here, enhanced training that you talked about. Do I have to do something now to keep my CCW, or is this what will happen to me when I go for renewal? And how many people are going to go the hell with renewal?
So it really depends on when you obtain your permit. So if you don't have to renew for another 2 to 3 years, you should be good. But if your renewal is coming up in the next year or so, you are going to have to do this so-called enhanced training course. Where
do I go, and who do I see? And we got Sheriff Reams coming up after you're with us, and they dumped, as he said, this into the sheriff's laps.
Oh, absolutely. So what has to happen now is the way that they're doing the certification, and once again, as I said before, this is an agenda for civilian disarmament. This is a way to disincentivize people from carrying, or I think it would make the Democrats very, very happy if people just started carrying without permits so they could throw more gun owners in jail.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is now is you can't just go see your local NRA instructor to go take a class and then get your certificate. You now must go to a certified instructor. So a certified instructor means they have to get permission from the local sheriff's office in order to teach concealed handgun classes in that county. Some counties down in the southeast corner, like Baca County and down by the Oklahoma-Texas border, their populations are so small they don't have any instructors, and they won't. And I don't know if those people will be able to get permits or not because of the new regulation and how it handles certification in each county.
Our guest is Ian Escalante. We were talking about the new gun laws, and in August of next year, the big ones will drop. But so the sheriff, and I spoke with the sheriff this morning. He said he's going to have to hire people, and with tax money as it is and restrictions that they are, he's going to have to hire people to be these government instructors. And if they don't want you to have it, you won't get the permit, will you?
No, absolutely not. And you see that with the big bill, the Senate Bill 3, permit to purchase. they're giving sheriffs the authority to just deny your eligibility card.
Yep.
And if you don't have the eligibility card, you can't take the 12-hour class, which is associated with your permit to purchase semi-autos. And then you either can't obtain your permit, or if you have your permit, you can't renew it.
And if I already had, say, an AR or an AK, then what will that do in terms of how that new law that drops, how will that affect me?
So for the moment, it does not regulate anything you already own. And I emphasize for the moment. If anyone thinks that they're just going to stop and they said, okay, we got our big, government permission slip to purchase semi-autos, we're going to take a break from the gun issue for a while, you are sorely mistaken, and you are quite frankly out of touch with reality. I sat through almost every single gun hearing. RMGO had a staffer at every single gun hearing this year. And time and time again, we heard Tom Sullivan and all of the usual suspects when you think of the rabid anti-gun crusaders in the Colorado General Assembly saying, we're not done. We're coming back. We're already hearing that they're going to come back and try to expand this permit for just pretty much all firearms like they did in Washington. What comes after that, then you're going to have to do, it's going to go Illinois style, where you have to hold the permit in order to even possess certain firearms. And if you do not renew your permit, you have to surrender those guns. Then it comes mandatory registration, and we all know what comes after that.
The Illinois model that I've read about, and is there a more violent city than Chicago? And how much good did any of those laws do to lower the gun violence in Chicago? The answer is it did nothing. In fact, the numbers went up.
Exactly. And what's very ironic is there was a March for Our Lives, which is an anti-gun advocacy group funded by the usual suspect far-left billionaires. They put out a statement the other day, and they were going on and on about how a bunch of people died in Chicago and children died. There was a terrible tragedy what happens there every day. Every week you see the numbers come out of Chicago, and it's just horrifying. And of course, the first thing they do is they start saying, well, we need our politicians to put people over the gun lobby. Well, the fact of the matter is that Illinois has had their firearm owner ID card for decades. They have a complete ban on so-called assault weapons.
Yep.
They passed that a couple of years ago. And then Chicago, it's pretty much impossible to possess or carry a gun in Chicago, at least a handgun. So that begs the question, how are all of these shootings still happening?
Yep.
Well, it's because you have a bunch of thugs. They're all gang affiliated. A lot of times buying weapons from the cartel, and we know that the Tren de Aragua cartel is alive and well in Chicago.
Oh, sure.
We also know that they run guns.
You can leave the state. You just drive over the border. I mean, there's. I'm looking at time right now. Ian, how's your time? Can you give us another segment?
Yeah, I can give you another quick segment.
Okay, I'm going to put you on. Do this, please, Adam. Put him on hold. Ian Escalante is with us. He'll do one more segment, then we go into open line. Sheriff Reams will be on the show, and we're making book on fights. We're being promoters. The Donald Trump wants to have UFC fights on the White House lawn. Who would you like to see fight in Denver? Who would you like to see fight in D.C.? And there's tons of people responding to that. Hold on, everyone. 90 will be the high. It's Saturday morning. It is 19, almost 20 minutes after the hour of 10.
Your 4th of July weekend will be seasonably warm. Temperatures close to average. Highs 80s to near 90. Today and Sunday, overnight low temperatures in the upper 50s and lower 60s. Monsoonal moisture is around, so with daytime heating, there will be ample opportunity for scattered late-day showers and thunderstorms through the weekend. Little change in the weather, steady temperatures, and late-day thunderstorm activity for Monday and Tuesday. Weather, sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Morning, everybody. Saturday, July the 5, 2025, 710 KNUS. We'll go to open lines here in about 10 minutes, 303-696-1971. In the meantime, with us, and he's with his family camping, kind enough to stay an extra 10 minutes, Ian Escalante with the Rocky Mountain Gun Owners. We talked about the new rules that came in July. I'm going to jump ahead to starting August 1st of 2026. These laws are passed as well. Jared Polis signed these. Manufacture, sale, and purchase of the semi-automatics. It is yours. Explain this or what's going to happen to the audience.
Absolutely. So how this is going to work is I'm going to give you a little bit of background on what everything that led up to this law, because it's important for everybody to know. So we got to rewind about 12 years back to 2013, and I'm sure you probably remember the big fight on the magazine ban and universal gun registry that we had under Governor John Hickenlooper. What ended up happening is they were, back then, the Democrats, they held the trifecta, and they were very, very open about the fact that they wanted to pretty much render the Second Amendment in the state of Colorado extinct. There was a very memorable speech from Senate President John Morse on the floor of the Senate saying that love for the Second Amendment in Colorado is a sickness that needs to be cleansed out of the body. And he ended up getting recalled for that, and then they kind of left it alone for a couple of years. Well, after the 2022 election, when the Republicans utterly failed at stopping the Democrats from taking near supermajorities in both chambers, they put the assault weapons ban right back on the table, and they said, okay, we're going to do this. And they tried it in 2023. Rocky Mountain gun owners mobilized that tens of thousands of gun owners to pressure their legislators and demand that they kill this bill. It died in committee in the House. They took another bite of the apple last year. They passed it out of the House by 3 votes, and then it died in committee in the Senate. This year, they started the bill in the Senate, and it was pretty much identical to the bill that we saw 2 years ago and last year, where it was banning pretty much instead of you saying that they were going to ban assault weapons, they said that they were going to ban pretty much any weapon, any semi-automatic weapon that takes a detachable magazine, which you and I both know is most of them.
Yeah.
So once again, my team and we mobilized. I actually just finished doing the numbers on this. We sent about almost 1 million text messages, about 5 million emails. We did about 100,000 patch-through calls into these legislators' offices. And on the day of the Senate vote, they realized they didn't have the votes, even amongst some of their Democratic colleagues. So they changed up the bill in the middle of the night to make it a permit-to-purchase scheme for purchasing semi-autos. So now, starting August 1st, in order to purchase a semi-auto, now pistols and handguns, like your Glock 19s and your Smith & Wesson handguns and things of that nature, those are not included at the moment. They probably will be soon enough. And what's going to happen is you're going to have to go to your local sheriff. You're going to have to you're going to have to pass a background check. You're going to have to give them your fingerprints, and then you're going to get what's called a firearm safety eligibility card. That is if the sheriff doesn't block obtaining it. After that, you then have to take a 12-hour course, pass a literacy test with 90% or better, then get your permit to purchase, and then go be able to purchase the
Think
firearm.
about this. I mean, for the folks in the audience, think about this. What these guys were able to do. And this, by the way, will start August 1, 2026, correct, Ian?
Correct.
Yeah. And it can be, has it been clearly, or has it been defined or fine-tuned? Because things like, from my reading, purchase of certain semi-automatic firearms that can accept detachable ammunition magazines. Well, what's that?
That covers a lot.
Yes, it does. That's what I'm talking about. The fine-tuning will be revealed.
Of course.
And also what tactical shotguns, handguns, and going to the county sheriff and you get vetted, and this is why Reams is coming on the show, you can get prohibited by getting vetted by the county sheriff at his or her will.
That's correct.
Now, there was a great line written by a constitutional scholar who said, the First Amendment remains only because the Second is there. And
that's true.
It is very true. And so this incremental banning has purpose. And I know you're coming up on time. What is the purpose of doing things like, and we can do this, ban weapons and maximum capacity of 15 rounds and all the different stuff that goes with it. But what is the ultimate purpose, you believe, Ian, of all of this legislation?
The ultimate purpose is to drive people like you and I out of this state. And they've been doing a pretty darn good job of it. If I remember one of the other hosts here on KNUS, Jeff Hunt, I was on his show probably about 6 months ago, and he was talking about how 6,000 families have left the state of Colorado and gone to red states like Texas, Arizona, Kansas, Wyoming. They want to drive their opposition out of the state, because once they drive people like you and I out of the state, then the overwhelming majority of people here are going to be like people from Boulder and Denver and Fort Collins and Vail and Breckenridge, and you insert every, liberal town in the state of Colorado. That's what they want to turn this whole state into. And this is conquest. People who don't understand this, conquest is not like it was back in the Roman times where they'd come in, they'd loot and they'd pillage, they'd burn your city down, and then, they'd raise their flag over your flag. The way conquest works now is it's political conquest, because the fact of the matter is that when you see these leftists coming out here and just viciously abusing their power, they are doing it so they can drive people like you and I out of this state. They are doing it so that they can show it as a safe haven to bring in more people from California, to bring more people from Oregon and Washington in, or from the East Coast. So this is what conquest looks like, and this is what they want to do at the federal level. They've been very open about it. If you want to see what happens if a Kamala Harris type of figure or an AOC becomes president, and God forbid they have control of Congress, this is what you are going to see happen at a national level, and it's quite frankly terrifying.
The history is, there's this idea that history is on your side, and history is on the side that you and I are trying to protect. That there's nothing that I can see that has purpose in terms of either one of these, especially the laws that were passed in Colorado. The only purpose ultimately that they have is good citizens being disarmed. And matter of fact, a very good friend of mine, Alan Samuel, Machine Gun Tours, they're moving. He's going north. He's going out of the state of Colorado. He's taking a great business, and he just doesn't want to put up with it anymore. There's plenty of those guys. They're taking
There's a lot.
They're taking the firearms business. It would be as though you're a mechanic and you fix automobiles, and each and every month seemingly there's another law that works against you fixing cars, and eventually you would take your garage and you would go someplace else, would you not?
Oh, absolutely. And excuse me, that's exactly what they want to happen. And, I saw this video come out a couple months ago, and it was quite frankly one of the most embarrassing things I think I've ever seen. Especially, I'm not a native Coloradan, but for folks who are native Coloradans who have lived here all their life, I'm sure it was so embarrassing. Governor Greg Gianforte of Montana, the day after Jared Polis signed Senate Bill 3, he put out a video, and he's like, Colorado gun manufacturers and FFLs, he's like, your state doesn't want you there anymore. Come to Montana.
I saw that.
We'll receive you with open arms.
Yeah, I saw that.
And so many businesses are moving north to Montana, and quite frankly, I don't blame them, because Montana, at the very least, despite all their, every state government has issues, but they're very open about the fact that they are welcoming towards people who support the Second Amendment, and they're welcoming towards firearms dealers and businesses. And quite frankly, I wouldn't blame someone for moving their gun shop up north.
Well, I'm watching it happen to a good friend, or just a good friend of mine, and so I had offered. He was a sponsor for years and a good friend for years, and an instructor for myself for years. And I offered. I said, You want to do a sale?" And he said, "Hell no! I'm taking these things up north, and we're going to go back, stay in business." So yeah, I mean. He's not worried about doing business in well, I won't say where he's going. That's up for him. But
sure,
there's lines that run through history that are apropos, and the one of them is the notion of if you do not have a Second Amendment. And Thomas Jefferson writes quite a bit about the Second, and he says, look. It's in essence, it's not there to hunt squirrels and deer. It's there to protect you. Is it protect you from the government? Correct?
Absolutely. No, and without question.
You take care of yourself. I know that you're with your family. You're taking out that time to help us, and thanks to Dudley and Ian Escalante. And we'll have you in studios someday. Actually, you and Dudley, I guess now is where's Dudley living now? He's out of the state. And,
no, Dudley's still in the state.
Oh, is he? Okay. Have you
yes.
Have you two guys in studio with us? That'd be
Absolutely.
Really. You take care, Ian. Happy 4th of July, brother, man. Thank you.
You too.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. All right. I'm going to get the sheriff on for a second and have him talk about it. Dan Capless Law. Danny suggests that when you choose an attorney who shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case speaks about you. And Dan Capless, we've talked about him growing up and who he is, and dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who were hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. We went through some things, I don't know, 9 years ago, 9 years ago, and I was working with Danny, but I knew him and knew him as an attorney. I really didn't know him as an attorney back then. I just knew him as an on-air guy and a family guy, and I went to his wedding, and we'd always been pals. And I thought, you know what? Who do I know? Capless. So I called him, and he went to work. And I watched him and listened to him, and I can't tell you how good he was during that. Danny Capless Law, the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche, and Dan Capless Law, a serious firm for serious cases. Danny accepts righteous injury cases on percentage-free basis. He can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to pay. He's the man. If you need help, 303-770-5551, or hit dancaplisslaw.com, CAPLIS law.com. Call the man up, 303-770-5551. Do we have the sheriff with us? No? All right, open lines again, 303-696-1971. And thoughts on the last segment, if you would. The other one, and it was so much fun, and everybody jammed up on it. Who would you like to see fight in Denver or in Washington, D.C.? Donald Trump said he wants the UFC fights at the White House. The president said Thursday that he's thinking of staging UFC matches on the White House grounds with up to 20,000 spectators to celebrate 250 years of American independence. Nothing says 4th of July like a good fist fight. And he said, we got lots of land here. He is close friends with Dana White, who is the UFC president. And Donald Trump addressed his plan in Des Moines. And he says, let's get it on, right? Remember John McCartney? Get it on. So who would you like to see fight? And we've had some really great, when people were making book or people were making, they're matchmakers. Who would you like to see fight? The other one is a very serious part of this is RFK Jr. is going to, if he has his way, will end TV drug ads threatening broadcast networks. And in essence, if you watch television in the United States, it's pretty unique. It is only our country and New Zealand. I didn't know this till I read it. It kind of struck me. The only countries that allow drug makers to advertise directly to consumers. And now the nation's top health official, RFK Jr., Health and Human Services Secretary, wants to ban pharmaceutical advertising on television. Tell me what you think. Arguing there are major reasons why Americans are consuming too many drugs. And the pharmaceutical industry, I looked this up, spends more than $5 billion, with a B, $billion a year on national television ads. And I got that from iSpot, which is a television measurement company. The biggest spenders are out there, the biggest names. You can imagine who it is. And Wall Street is looking at, they're asking about, they call it the Kennedy threat. I think that's interesting. And it's hard to turn on television without seeing an ad for and matter of fact, the evening news is totally sponsored by commercials for pharmaceuticals. All right, everybody's calls after this, 303-696-1971. Hold on. Saturday morning, everyone, the 5th morning of July, 2025, 7:10 KNUS. 90 the high today, 90 again tomorrow. We just finished up a segment with Ian Escalante, and we're talking about this weight that will fall on sheriffs when these laws get passed, especially the August of next year. But I want to bring on, he's a dear friend. We ride motorcycles together. I think the world of him. Sheriff Reams is with us from Weld County, and we had spoken this morning about what will fall into the laps of sheriffs due to these new laws that are banning firearms. Sheriff, good morning. Thanks for coming on the show, and thanks for doing it one more time.
You bet, Pete. It's my pleasure.
All right, so talk about this, and how you were talking to me. You said you're, and other sheriffs as well, are going to probably end up hiring more people. Why?
Well, so it's kind of two different issues. Let's talk about the concealed weapons permit process first.
All right. Fair.
Because it's two separate bills, two separate inaction dates. So the concealed weapons permit process was passed last year under House Bill 24-1174, and it didn't actually go into effect until July 1 of this year. And really what that did was take everybody who has a concealed weapons permit and say, hey, all the training that you've been to, all the practice that you've done with your concealed weapons permit, that really doesn't matter anymore, because from this point forward, from July 1 forward, when you get ready to renew that permit, you're going to have to go take a refresher course of at least 4 hours, and then show that you can handle your firearm competently and check off all these boxes as required by the state. And then you can go back to your county sheriff and ask for the renewal. And if you haven't yet had a permit and you want to go get your permit as of July 1, now you have to take a 2-day class. It's got to be 8 hours over 2 days, and you got to check off all these boxes, shoot at a certain proficiency, and then you can go ask your sheriff, can I now have a concealed weapons permit? And we go through the same process as what we did before, and it's a 5-year permit. The problem is Colorado Parks and Wildlife get involved in the requirements of the class, and as was alluded to by Ian, if you want to go take that class, you have to go to what's called a verified instructor. So I have to have instructors come in and submit a list of self-certification stuff saying, hey, I teach my class to this level with this many, these hours of instruction covered, and then I list them on my website. So if you happen to go to an instructor who's not a verified instructor in some county, then that's yet one more hurdle that you're going to have to correct, because that class will be null and void. It's a mess. It does nothing to enhance safety. It's just more bureaucracy, and it's another way for the state to get involved in a process that, quite frankly, they should have no control over. And that's the CCW issue. Again, that went into effect on July 1, and typically on any given day, my office will process 25 to 40 permits a day for either new issue permits or renewals. Leading up to that June 30th date, we were doing about 80 a day, with the last couple of days being, we did 126 on the Friday before the weekend, and then on the last day of the month, we did 180. And we probably could have stayed up all night and we could have processed them until midnight if we'd have wanted to, but we just don't have the capacity with workers.
Sheriff, that's because the drop-dead date was coming, so everybody jumped ahead. Yeah, sure.
And again, this does nothing to enhance safety, because I have yet to contact one criminal turd out there that's looking to enact violence upon his community who says, well, I was going to commit this gun crime, but since I didn't go through the permitting process correctly, I better not do that. It's a fallacy. It's complete crap.
Yeah, I wrote on my worksheet, I said this to Eric, what good will these gun laws do? The answer is
none.
Nothing. So what's the true purpose of these gun laws?
It's bureaucracy. It's trying to pit county sheriffs against their constituents. It's just trying to create more hoops for people to jump through to carry the thing that they most need to make themselves feel safe, especially in a state that's ranked number 2 in crime in the United States.
I know.
I mean this isn't where the criminals derive from, not from the permitting process.
So, and I've, again, from my notes, the enhanced training, Sheriff Reams is with us from Weld County. Now, this new law requirements for obtaining or renewing, and that would be me, a renewal, including 8 hours of in-person, 8 hours of in-person
That's
training.
8 hours over 2 days. Yeah, 8 hours over 2 days. You can't just do a one-day course. You got to do a 2-day course.
And how much will that course cost?
That's a great question because there is no cost set by the state. That'll be up to the individual instructors to set it. Like if you come to renew your permit or get your permit from my office, we charge no local fees. The only fees that you're going to pay are what you pay to the state, which we have to, basically pass through to CBI for your background. But every sheriff can charge whatever they choose. And I say that because it says it's supposed to be a reasonable fee or a cost recovery fee. Well, good luck, doing that math. So if a sheriff is leaning against his constituents and really isn't all that in favor of his constituents having concealed weapons permits, that's one other way that sheriff can create barriers and charge a fee on top of the state. I think most sheriffs are charging $100 over what the state fee is. So most places you go, it's going to be $152.50 for a concealed weapons permit. My office, we charge you $52.50.
In those of us who live in Denver, you go to the Denver PD to do it, and that's in and of itself, we'll see what's going to happen. So also renewing a CCW, 8 hours of training, then it's safe storage, and now live fire. There's a live fire requirement. Sheriff, what's the live fire component of this?
So, I would say best practice, if you're going to go learn to use your gun, you should have some live fire component in that training, but it's never been required by law before. Now it is required in the law that you do some live fire training and you qualify to a certain level, that your instructor is going to attest to and say, yeah, this person is good with carrying a firearm. But they're also teaching you about red flag laws. They're teaching you about safe storage. This is kind of, to me, this is the indoctrination method. Those of you that are out there in the real world and you don't really pay attention to what's going on about these silly red flag laws in the state of Colorado. We're gonna tell you how good this law is, and I'm saying that tongue in cheek because most people aren't very supportive of the concept of red flag laws. But now they're going to tell you, oh, here's all the benefits of having one. It's more bureaucracy. It's more stumbling blocks for a person who is already trying to follow the law and exercise their Second Amendment rights. Again, just one more hurdle for those people to do so.
And then vehicle storage now going into effect in August 1 of 26. And this is one that I've been thinking over. When I travel, and so say I have a handgun in my truck, will I have to keep that under lock, or may I have it unlocked while I'm driving?
Well, that's a trick question, Pete, because if you're carrying it on your person, then the safe storage law doesn't necessarily apply. If you're carrying it lawfully concealed on your person, the question is so there was a bill passed, I think, in the 21 legislative session that said local municipalities can create their own gun laws, so they can restrict concealed carry. So let's say you're carrying concealed, and you drive to a community that concealed carry isn't approved. Okay, well, now you got to figure out, I'm going to lock my gun away because I can't carry it concealed. So now you have to put it in a locked container that meets the requirements of the law. You're asking every citizen in the state of Colorado to be a gun law expert because they're all so confusing and conflating with one another.
I am going to hit the wall. I know you have a busy morning. Let's get out there and get after him. Sheriff, thank you so much. I got to tell you what a good man this man is, and the future is his. Steve, thanks. It means a lot. You be safe. Thanks for your time.
Pete.
All right.
All right.
So it gives you an idea of what is to come, especially now next year, August 1, all of this plus the other things. We will continue after the turn. I want to read all of the fight cards that have been presented to us as well. And again, talking about RFK Jr. wants to end drug ads on TV. Everything coming your way in Open Lines next on 710 KNUS. And good morning again, everyone. July the 5th, 2025, 710, KNUS Denver's talk station. 90 the high today, and 90 again tomorrow. 303-696-1971. We have one line open. I'm working all next week, Monday through Friday. The guys are off. I got the show, and we were talking, Adam and I were talking about all the plans we have for next week's shows. So, in open lines, and I got to read all these text messages because they're hilarious. I came up with this idea. President Trump wants UFC fights on the White House lawn. And as you know, he's friends with Dana White. The president has announced that he wants to have a festival on the National Mall, Washington, D.C., and a separate, I'll read this to you, athletic competition. And they want UFC fights. And a White House spokesperson has said, yeah, we're gonna try and pull this off. He's thinking of staging UFC fights on the White House grounds, up to 20,000 spectators, and celebrating 250 years of American independence, a punch-out. So I started thinking this the other day, and I said, well, what would the good national fights look like in Washington, D.C.? Who would you really like to see fight? And then I thought, well, why not bring it home? Who would you like to see fight in Denver? And so I'll read them to you. Brockler versus Kyle Clarke. The undercard, let me move. I got all these different little mice here. I got to move them around to have them talk. Undercard, Bernie Sanders versus Mitch McConnell. That would be a good one. Morning, Peter. Brockler versus Phil Weiser. Bobert. There's a good one. Bobert versus Heroin Barbie. There's a good fight. Let me see. No, let's see. Well, no, I can't do that one. Let me see. Some of these just can't read. No. Pam Bondi versus Greta Thunberg. Isn't Greta Thunberg, she's that, the activist that they caught living in a beautiful home. Brittany Pedersen versus, let me move this down a little bit, versus Lauren Boebert, but in Jell-O in bikinis. That's a good one. A good match would be Brockler versus Professor Phil. Oh, boy. How about a fight between Hakeem Jeffries and Mike Tyson? All right. So we have all of those. Now, 303-696-1971. The topic of RFK Jr., he wants to end drug ads, talking about that, president's fights, and, of course, what's happening now with firearms laws. So it goes anywhere it wants to go. We'll start here, and this is, Jack in Wyoming. You're up. Good morning, sir. Thanks for calling the show.
Hi, Pete. It's always fun talking to you.
Thanks.
On this gun stuff, now, let's just bounce off the Constitution a little bit. The 10th Amendment gives the states the rights to craft their own laws. Nobody's arguing with that. But there is one set aside. They have to be constitutional. Okay, well, if they have to be constitutional, why aren't people lining up and arguing that all of these gun restrictions, which are basically just to keep everybody from having a gun, what is ambiguous about the Second Amendment? If they can't point out something that's ambiguous or find it clearly stated in the Second Amendment, then they're not entitled to it.
But remember,
it's that simple.
Remember this: the Second Amendment is the only amendment of the Constitution that you have to ask permission for. And I think that speaks to so many different things that have happened in this country. But the Second Amendment is the only amendment that you have to ask permission for. You don't have to ask permission for the first. You don't have to ask permission for the third. But you have.
So they've usurped your rights.
Well, that's the argument that is being made by gun rights advocates that. And again, this idea in some states, like I have a CCW. If I travel, Colorado, I don't think there's anywhere that I can't go that the state that I'm in would not recognize my CCW. I know South Dakota does, Wyoming does, and Nebraska does. Those are the states that I ride through when we're going places, and you're allowed to have your handgun with you. because the state recognizes the CCW of Colorado. Now, and again, there are states now that have what's called constitutional carry. Colorado is a very unique place for allowing this to happen. And again, in fairness, you got to blame the Republican Party for allowing all of this to happen.
Well, they're absent. There's no resistance on the Republican side.
And Escalante agreed, and Dudley Brown agrees that these people are. And remember, the Democrats are doing what they think is right. I mean, it isn't like nefariously the Democrats are thinking, it's very evil to take away guns. It isn't what they think. They think taking away guns is the right thing to do.
Yeah, well, I don't like those guns any more than anybody else does, but I don't see how you can take your personal preferences and impose them on other people just because that's the way you think.
I understand
we're supposed to be a nation of laws driven by the Constitution and not of men's preferences.
Well, again, it isn't. It's like I say about the First Amendment. The First Amendment is there not to protect what you like, but what you don't like. In other words, as hard as this is sometimes for certain people to get their head around, the First Amendment is there to protect what you don't like being said or what you don't like being written. That's why it's there. It isn't there because you like it. It's like because you don't like it, it protects. And the historian after historian says, look, the First Amendment remains because of the Second. That, again, if you look at places that cannot stand up, often, that freedom of speech thing can go out the window pretty quick.
Are you going to go to that shotgun shoot on the 13th of September? I guess Mike Rosen's going to go.
Well, good. I mean, everybody, I don't, they have a drinking thing going on. I just stay away. It's not smart for me.
We jokingly call one of my clubs where we shoot, we call it a drinking club with a shooting problem.
Oh, yeah. So listen, it's like people always say to me, would you host a wine tasting? And I say no, and they get, I said, I don't have any business at wine tasting. I don't have any business and I love Caldera, and Patty Calhoun goes every year, and Rosen goes, and it's great. It's just not a place I should go. That's all. No big.
Well, no, I can understand that.
Yeah.
I don't drink at all. I quit drinking quite a while ago, and I used to drink all the time. So I know what you're talking about.
There it is. Thanks, man.
But okay.
Be safe. All right. We have two lines open. This is Mike in Littleton. Hey, Mike, you're on a radio show. Good morning.
Well, good morning, Mr. Boyles. I guess I'll start with, I feel like I'm being smothered by government at every level. And so when I hear RFK wants to start banning drug ads, yeah, okay, I understand the point. Didn't get rid of cigarettes. People still smoke, but it's more government in my life. When I look at Colorado and these concealed carry laws now, or to get the permit, that's more government, very intrusive. The state legislature every year now is doing 700 bills here in Colorado. They're just everywhere. And so I guess what I'm saying is that, and the big beautiful bill, of course, it just feels like at every level.
Well, again,
being smothered.
When I started to put the show together, and I saw a hookup, I saw a comparison analysis between RFK Jr. ending the television drug ads and the gun grab. And that might sound a little loose, but I see an analysis where they run a parallel track. But for decades, pharmaceutical companies have shelled out big bucks to broadcasters to put ads on television for using their drug companies. Yes or no? Mm-hmm. Yes or no? I mean,
yeah, very true. Would that be on cable TV also, or are you talking just over the air broadcast?
Well, they can't do much to cable, but they can do it to the networks. Because the networks have, it's like this radio station, its license is from the government. But if you have something like XM, the government has nothing to do with it. And that's why cable, you're inviting it into your home, and that's why they can show the things that they show. So, but it is the policies, and the idea the policies are either a mandate that advertisers elaborate on the risks posed by their drugs, and forcing the ads to be longer and therefore more expensive, or bar drug makers from writing off direct-to-consumer ads. And if you've seen those ads, I've seen them 1,000 times. You know, the woman or the man can't walk, and they take this drug, and then they show them out running with, not running, but walking with their grandkids, or you can't sleep, and then they show you after you take the drug you can sleep. So, you know, it's enticing.
Well, yeah, you could watch watch the ads on TV, and you could turn into a cowboy, you know, as far as cigarette smoking goes. You know what I mean?
Sure, but doctors, they used to have doctors. I remember seeing guys, you know, dressed like doctors in pictures, or athletes. I thought it was a Joe DiMaggio that sold camels, or, you know, we've become more sophisticated, and we've decided that, look, it's not a good thing to do that.
The size of the government, Health and Human Services, if you take that as one example, which Kennedy's in charge of, it's just, to me, it's just another intrusion in our lives. Why not focus on education, educating the public, rather than controlling the public?
Well, they said that was cigarettes. And what year was it that the Surgeon General came out? 64, 63?
Yep, about.
And how long did it take? But to this day, 25% or so of our youth are still smoking in one form or another, and they're trying to monkey with that too. And of course, then they took the cigarette, American tobacco abroad is big, and so it didn't slow anybody down. And the ads just, and of course it ended NASCAR, Winston Cup, but we're watching it happen. Thank you.
Well, the bigger the government, the less freedom you have, and that's what's happening to us.
Take care of yourself. Let's go.
All right, bye now.
Go to Patrick, 303-696-1971. We have lines open. Patrick, you're on the radio show. Thank you, and good morning. Patrick.
Hello.
You're on the air, sir.
Oh, Patrick?
Indeed.
Yeah. Okay, Peter. Hey, listen. Have you heard of the Byrna? BYRNA?
Oh, the CO2 gun.
I got one. The little ball travels, 400 feet a second, and the ones I have, they have gas, so when they hit you, tear gas comes out.
Okay.
And I did pull one on the 6th Street Mall, and the guy saw it, and he took off. He thought it was a real gun. But I was ready to fire a few shots at him if he came any closer.
What's that? There's a charge called flourishing, that if you pull a gun, then isn't there, somebody explained flourishing to me, but I know somebody that went down on that they pulled a gun on somebody and they ended up getting arrested for it. They didn't.
Oh,
seriously.
But this Byrna is legal in all 50 states, and I went to TSA and I showed it to them and they said, I can't bring it through security, but it says, it's not a problem. It's non-lethal.
What's the one that shoots out the two electric darts? What are they called? Adam, they have the gun that they zap you with it. What are those called?
Taser.
Taser. There you go. No, what's the one that shoots the? Is it a taser that shoots the wires out that have the connectors on the end?
Yeah. It has two prongs. But I don't know about going through thick clothes or,
Well, that's just it. That's just it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I look at these laws that we spent the morning talking about. Do you really believe that those gun laws, will do anything at all?
Not at all. It's just going to hinder us.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a gun to protect ourselves. We can't get access to it. But these guys, they carry. They're carried in their underpants or whatever.
And for real. And so, how do you know what this means? And so,
it's only to get rid of us, like the guest you had, is to get rid of us, get us out of the state, or make it almost impossible to get a gun.
From my legal eagle friend on my text on my phone, brandishing a firearm. Thank you.
Oh, brandishing.
Yeah.
Okay, but they call it a projectile or something like. They don't call it. It looks like a gun. Now you can get the ones that are orange or the ones that are black. I got the black one.
I don't. Again, I think I know what they are, and I think I've heard ads. I think Mandy does an ad for one, but I don't know. I don't know.
Well, they have a shop. They have a shop on Buckley Boulevard, not far from Buckley Air Force Base.
Well, I got the real thing, so we'll see.
I know, but you know what happens if you shoot someone? You got a whole bunch of legal problems.
Yes, you do, and you're going to jail.
Yeah, and so I believe, because I was police officer at Buckley, and I was also corrections officer, and what we learned in both was the continuum. In other words,
there was a guy. If you have a taser, yeah. I'm on your side. There's a guy that maybe we could find him for next week, but he's an attorney in Colorado Springs. He talks about what happens if you shoot somebody.
So it's use of force continuum, which means you take the least lethal and then you work your way up. You don't go directly unless you fear for your life. Now, when I worked corrections, we don't have weapons. It's hand to hand.
Oh, yeah.
So we have open hand, closed hand, and we just progress unless we fear for our life. The guy's a 300-pound gorilla. Well, you're not going to go through the steps.
Thank you for your call. This is a good one. Yeah. Thank you.
Peter, before you hang up, I got one question. You advertise an advertisement in a restaurant in Arvada?
Yep.
You elude, but you don't say. Do you have to have reservations?
Probably be smart, but you could probably walk in too. I can't answer that. Because
the way it reads, the way you say it, you say it in a way like it's not your fault. You're probably reading a script, but it says something like I forget what the wording is, but it sounds like
we'll play
you have to have a reservation.
I always call and make a reservation with Karen, but that doesn't mean you have to.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
You got me.
No, I just want to know.
You got me. Good call, Patrick. Be safe. Thanks, man. Goodbye. All right. 303-696-1971. What good will these gun laws do? And what do you think the true purpose is? RFK Jr. wants to end drug ads threatening broadcast networks. And who would you like to see fight? I still love that. We got more email on that one or text messaging on that one. 303-696-1971. And I'm working all next week, Monday through Friday. The boys got the week off. 90 will be the high today, 90 on Sunday. This is 710 KNUS.
Your 4th of July weekend will be seasonably warm. Temperatures close to average. Highs 80s to near 90 today and Sunday. Overnight low temperatures in the upper 50s and lower 60s. Monsoonal moisture is around, so with daytime heating, there will be ample opportunity for scattered late-day showers and thunderstorms through the weekend. Little change in the weather, steady temperatures, and late-day thunderstorm activity for Monday and Tuesday. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Afternoon, everybody. Not yet. Sorry. 20 minutes from now, I guess, or it's 23 after 11. In about 47 minutes, we'll be saying good afternoon. Saturday, July 5, 2025, 710 KNUS. Phone number's 303-696-1971. Lines are jammed. David Ellis, Cherry Creek. You've heard me talk about taking valuables to David to get a fortune in cash. Secure appraisals from David from all the valuables you have tucked away in your home. It's all still true. And I'll tell you what, let me share the other reasons to see David. And I saw him this week, just in case you don't have a Rolex watch, rare coins, or a silver tea set. Go see David Ellis for all of the most meaningful gift-giving occasions. We have all the brides coming up now, June and July. People get married. David Ellis Jewelers, they've been just the right item for the right people at the right time. Special people, and that means the most. An antique watch, an emerald pendant, a gold necklace, a diamond ring. This trusted jeweler has been buying precious metals and antiques in Colorado for decades. Dazzling cases filled with hundreds of new and used pieces your loved ones will treasure. Visit David Ellis and see for yourself. Look for the black awning on the corner of 3rd and Clayton and Cherry Creek. Explore DavidEllisJewelry.com 6 days a week. You can call my friend David Ellis at 303-322-8779. Tell him I sent you. But again, if you got something you want to sell or get it appraised, 3rd and Clayton and Cherry Creek, 6 days a week, DavidEllisJewelry.com. You can call David's office, 303-322-8779, 303-322-8779, and tell David Peter Boyles sent you. All right, we go here with Tom in Centennial. Lines are full. Tom, you're on the radio show. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Peter. Hey, I've been a fan since the Alan Burke days.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. And wanted to say, I would guess I'd schedule a match with Marjorie Taylor Greene and AOC.
See, that fight's come up. That's the other than Kyle Clarke fights, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Who do you got? Who do you got?
I got Marjorie Taylor Greene because on weight. So
wait alone. No, I think you're right. Alone. I think you're right. I think you're right.
And as far as gun laws, they don't make any difference whatsoever. Years ago, when they came out with the magazine ban, I asked my convicted felon cousin if he was concerned about it.
No.
He said no. He opened it. He opened his trunk. He had everything in there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's really the point of it. Is what good do these laws do?
Nothing.
What's the true purpose of the law
to get me to move to the free state of Alabama,
or to disarm
me? By the way, I've carried concealed since Sheriff Wood days. Never had a permit, but I got one. Some years back now.
Yeah,
but it didn't bother me that I had to be a permit.
I've plenty of friends that don't have a CCW.
Better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6.
It's exactly what they say. What they say.
Yeah. Well,
right,
thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Days of old, back when you were doing the Halloween parties and everything.
Man.
Loved it.
Oh, man. Thank you. All right. We go to Steve in Denver. There's a line open. Hey, Steve, thanks, man. Welcome to the show. Steve. Steve. I can hear him. He's on the other end. Steve, welcome to the radio show. Give him a 3-2-1 count. All right. 3, 2, 1. Steve. All right, let's go to Gary. Gary in Denver, you're on the radio show. Good morning.
Good morning, Pete. I hope you're well.
Thanks. Yeah.
Anything that gets people to leave the state, I'm all for. There's too many people in Colorado. I've never understood this obsession with guns. I've never in my entire life felt like I needed a gun. I don't feel unsafe, but that's just me.
It's okay.
But I wanted to talk about the big, beautiful bill.
All right.
And I know you're not good with numbers. You're really good with words. I'm the complete opposite. I'm terrible with words, but I'm really good with numbers. And, if you look at the big, beautiful bill, without going into too much detail, the spending is all front loaded. It's all going to be spent in the first 2 or 3 years, and all the savings are backloaded. And if you really think about it, they're saying that the deficit will increase 3.3 trillion over 10 years. Well, what's going to happen is it's going to explode in the first 3 years, and then they're under the guise that they're going to recapture all those with savings in the out years. And it's obvious that that's the plan, because you know that they raised the debt limit, right?
Yeah, but again, what is it? 250,000 words? I mean,
I don't know.
I mean, it's an enormous bill, and I don't pretend to understand everything that's in it. I've just read overviews and I've read people's critiques of it. I certainly haven't read it, but I don't know if you can argue with results.
You're right, and we will see the results. And here's what the results are going to be. This is my opinion.
Sure.
They raised the debt limit $5 million, but they're saying that the deficit will only increase 3.3. So you got to ask yourself, why do they need to increase the debt limit $5 million if the deficit's only going to go up 3.3 over 10 years? That's because they plan on increasing the deficit by $5 trillion over the first 3 years.
But it's a catch-up. And like, for instance, the big argument about who will get taken care of in terms of the federal government, in terms of like NPR's on the list, and people talk about government subsidies and trying to understand who does what. And we have, I mean, it almost has to be done.
Go
ahead.
People that are much younger than are going to be paying our credit card, and I'm fine with that. I'm great. But other people want to pay my credit card, that's fine. One
thing is for sure, and that's okay. If right now the American dollar continues to drop, and we are in this, and I've had this conversation with some people that I really think are very bright. History is repetitive, and we were gliding towards mimicking the British after the Second World War. And we still have aspects of ourselves running parallel lives where the British lose all of their colonial interests. They've gotten themselves into such deep debt because of the war that the only thing that emerges out of it is this extremely far left-wing. And matter of fact, as you know, when Churchill goes to Potsdam, he's been voted out of office, and he's no longer the prime minister. And then Britain goes through this period of darkness, and the United States is and that's why I think this dropping bombs on Iran, I think, just really still scares me. But we've been in these wars in the third world, like the British trying to protect their colonies, and then at home there's great spending on social programs. And if somebody doesn't halt all of this stuff, Gary, it's not going to be there for you to be paid or my grandson to have a purpose. We have to stop this. Stop this somehow. And there are people that have loaded up on the government and continue to load up, and it has to be stopped. And
I agree, Pete. I agree, and you and I will be around to see what happens in the next 3 years, and I think what's going to happen. Let me just tell you one other thing that might make you laugh.
All right.
You know, everyone in the administration and the Democrats, they pick out specific examples, anecdotal examples to bolster their point.
Sure.
And I was listening to Kristi Noem, who you know is the border czar.
Yep.
And she gave this example. She said they caught an illegal alien who had a long history of breaking the law with felonies, and they put him on a plane to deport him. And they found out in their research that he was a cannibal. And on the flight, when they were flying him back to his country, he began eating himself.
What?
She literally said that.
Oof.
And you can Google it if you
No, I'm
think
sure
I'm
I
making
can.
it up.
No, I've not heard that, but not what surprises you anymore. Nothing.
Yeah, that was kind of funny that she would say he's eating himself on the plane.
What did she mean to say?
That's what she meant to say.
Okay.
I guess the airplane food was pretty bad.
Talk to you. Thanks. All right, everybody. We go to Dino, my man in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Brother
hey,
man.
Stutzdahl, how you doing? How are you doing? Yeah, I call you well. You said happy 4th and all that stuff.
Thank you.
Plenty of cheap fireworks down here. It's great. Totally different night and day between that. But I'll be up in Colorado end of July, no summer, August anyway. Anyhow, first of all, these fights, the actual matchups you want, you can't even think about Poulos or the Sport Coat boy. Anybody would overmatch them. You got a guy like Poulos, the schnoz on him, you belt him out, he'd bleed for a week. So you got to do that. But the one I'd like to do is see in D.C., forget the, well, you could do MMA, cage fight if you want, I don't care. Make it a shoot instead of a work, a real wrestling match. Have AOC and other zero, that Crockett, against Tulsi Gabbard and Christy Nome.
In a work?
They kick,
or a shoot?
Yeah, no, in a shoot. Why work? I let him go at it. And put her out real bad. So that's not going to happen. But someone has to shut up AOC. That's ridiculous. And the other one is just, if I was a Republican, if that Crockett, when she made fun of that Governor Abbott of Texas, that called him Hot Wheels, making fun of the guy in the wheelchair, if that was totally, they'd get on that person. There's nothing. It's almost like pro wrestling anyway. The heels get away with everything, and the baby faces get clocked.
Sure. I got a bunch of, because I want you to play off of this one. I got a bunch of more text to read, but this one is, a great matchup would be DGT versus Dr. Jill and Joe Biden. Now, if you could put, they're called a mixed tag team. Dr. Jill and Joe, who would they match up to? In a 2 out of 3 falls, loser leaves town. Cage.
That's a good one. You have to find someone really, really old.
No,
you know, like the piece of that Biden. I know one guy like a piece of that Biden. He gave up almost his life when he got shot in that ball field. That's Scalise. That's Scalise guy. And if you get his wife, let's do it that way.
It's got to be 2 out of 3. Loser leaves town in a cage.
45-minute time limit.
But a 50-minute time limit on it, and you know they're not going further.
No, Biden is it. What can you say? And your gun laws, quite obvious. Get back to the guns in Colorado. I know several people. I've hunted there myself, and my whole life was there. They're trying to just outlaw total guns within the state. They would like to do it nationally, of course, but the Second Amendment will always be there. But I'm just saying that's their goal.
Of
When they come with
it
these technical stuff, they don't admit this stuff, and it's not going to stop any shooting. They just don't realize when you tell a Dem straight up to his face that the criminal will always get a gun. They have no answer. They don't say anything after that.
And they can't and they won't. And that's
that's their MO.
The point. So, what good would the gun laws do, and what's the true purpose of all of this? And I think the answers are obvious. They really will. When are you coming home?
Looks like end of July. I'll call you out there. Yeah, I don't know the number, so I'll give you a call at the station. All right, take it easy, man. Have a good one. Thanks.
All right, I'm going to go to the wall here for a second. They're talking about the matchup GDT and versus Dr. Joe and Biden together. I wouldn't mind taking management on. I'd like to see a throwdown between Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia and Dem Jasmine Crockett from Texas. This one is, well, that one isn't. This one, brandishing is a big no-no. Thank you. Of all the presidents, Biden's talk about President Trump behind the gym. Yeah, remember when he wanted to fight Trump? Remember that? I'd forgotten about that. Trump Biden. There you go. And he said, remember when Biden wanted to take Donald Trump on behind the gym? I'd forgotten it, but yes, there it is. President Trump and President Biden. How will this affect hunters? That's a really good one. Open carry affected? If not, I believe we will see lots of open carry. And Brockler versus Kyle Clarke. That's coming up a lot. That fight might be legit. All right, we go to Brian because those two I don't think they care for each other. Brian in Greeley, Colorado, thank you for calling the show. Good morning.
Good morning to you. I was calling in. I was going to call in about the CCW thing, but what I really wanted to talk about is pro wrestling.
Me too. Go ahead.
Well, did you ever meet Tito Santana?
Yes. He's teaching school.
How about him versus our Governor Polis?
Tito's teaching school now.
Is he really?
Yeah. Tito Santana was really, really, really good. He was obviously.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, sure. And he's the last thing I heard about him is he was teaching school against the governor. It's not even there. The governor's come up in a couple of matchups, but think about who you'd really, really, really like to see fight.
Jumping Jimmy Brunzell.
You are an old timer, Jumping Jim.
Yes.
The fans call. We used
I'm
to.
Sure,
we used to introduce.
I'm sure
him.
you met him.
Oh, knew him real well.
I'm a little nervous.
Hang on. Put him on hold. Put him on hold. All right. We'll come back, take his call. We'll continue in Open Lines on 710 KNUS. It's gotten better. Bobert versus Omar dog collar match. Pro wrestling now sneaks in. Saturday, July the 5th, 2025, 7:10 KNUS. It's going to be 90, 90, and 90. It's going to be really, really hot next couple of days. We started the show in open lines, and I came up with this, and it's really taken off. President Donald Trump wants UFC fights on the White House lawn. And so I thought, well, who would you really like to see fight? And then I brought up, well, what about Denver fights? And who would you like to see fight in Denver? And it's now turned into what it's turned into. This is Brian and Greeley, who brought up pro wrestling. All right, Brian, it's yours again. You're back on the air. Go ahead.
No, what I was going to say is earlier in the show, you were talking about the referee, back in the day.
Oh, sure.
It was Judge Mills Lane.
Mills Lane, I actually did an interview with him. He was a judge, a real judge.
Yes, he was.
But
he was also into the fight game, and he was the one who said, "Let's get it on."
Did he say that first? Wow, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think it was the Tyson. God, it was. Oh, boy, well, Tyson versus. I can't think of the other guy's name, but he was the one who said, let's watch the low blows. Let's watch the rabbit punches, and let's get it on.
Let's get it on. Because, you brought up pro wrestling. The referee in pro wrestling is playing a role as well, but it's far different than boxing. And I've told the story probably too many times, but when I first got to work, I worked for Vern, and I was sitting ringside. My job was to time and announce how much minutes were left in the match. Now they do it in the earpieces. Yeah. But I watched the ref slip the blade. It was Dusty Rhodes and I'm trying to think who the heel was. Dusty was a face then. It was a face turn.
Well,
but
I was going to ask you about, was it Nacho Barrero?
No, I'm trying to think who. It'll come to me. But the ref took the blade out of his shirt pocket, and it was just a little edge of a.
I remember that.
It was a little tiny edge of a wrapped in a tape on one part of it.
I can't think of it either.
But he put it down and he slid it. He slid with his finger, and Dusty and Dusty took the blade, and always they'd go out of the ring when they juiced, and he went down, and he gigged himself, and came up bloody, and
it was Mean Gene. It was Mean Gene running the scene.
No, well, Gene, I crossed paths with Gene. I just did the ring, like for 5 or 6 markets, and then I was, getting in. I was going to school, and I was in the radio business doing traffic reports and working with Bob, and I just didn't want to get away from what we were doing in real life. But I met Gene a couple of times, and he's a good guy. He was a really good guy. And
and there was a restaurant in Kansas. It was in Overland. It was Mean Gene's hamburger stand, and it was like the best.
Was it his for real, or they just named it?
Well, I want to say it was his.
That might have been a work. That might have been a work.
No, it wasn't. It didn't say. It just said Gene Okerlund on it. It was the greatest restaurant ever.
Oh, he could put guys over, man. He was. He and again he played it out as the announcer.
Yes, he did.
And I got to do some of that stuff, but only they used to shoot. Remember old Channel 2, where Fox News is now? It was like they used to call it the bunker, that old dark building that was Channel 2. Well, we used to cut promos there for for.
Was that KWGN?
WGN, that's right. World. So we would cut promos, and we would cut promos for different cities, but they would be the same promo, and because there wasn't cable then, there wasn't the internet.
No.
But and that's where the first time I ever saw them, they used the box and I'm not very tall. I'm a little guy, and but they had the box that the guy would step up on, and we would do. The streets are going to run red with blood in Casper on, I think it would be Wednesday night, and then the streets are going to run red with blood Thursday night in Cheyenne, and then the streets are going to run red with blood Friday night in Denver. But I'll tell you who was great was the Crusher. And
yes, he was.
Reggie Lazowski was his real name.
I didn't know his real name.
That's his real name. And they still do.
Really?
They do Crusher Fest in Milwaukee every year now. But he was little. He wasn't a big guy. And
really?
I mean, he wasn't.
He looked like he was 6'4", 6'5".
No. He was just a little bit taller than I am. But they would come up on the box, and he would take the microphone. Listen to me, and he would do that voice.
No.
And
I used to watch that on the AWA. It was awesome.
Well, then one of the all-time great experiences I had was the Crusher was feuding with, and so finally it was at the point when I think it was like Superstar Billy Graham and some other West Coast heel, and it was before Billy went and got on the juice, and so. The Crusher, they were teaming the Crush pretty bad, and the Crusher finally said, and we had it all set up, and he said, "There's only one thing left for me to do," and the answer, and they dropped this picture down, and it was Mad Dog Vachon, and and he said, "I'm bringing in the dog," and I'd seen Mad Dog, I'd never been around him, and. It was Mad Dog Vachon, and he had a brother named Paul, and they called him the Butcher. And
I didn't know that.
Mad Dog Vachon was the best guy. I loved him. He was crazy, but he was smart, and he read existentialists and stuff, and we would sit and talk. And then
really?
He was way smart guy. And when the Crusher died. He was in town, and we wrote this obit for the Crusher, and because they were very close friends, and sometimes the Crusher, I saw them do the same program they did with the Crusher, but it was the Man Too Tough for the NFL, and there was the Crusher's partner, and they brought him in all the time, and it was Dick the Bruiser. And they brought the Bruiser. Okay. The Bruiser was the Bruiser was a little different to work with, but all I did was like ring announce, and they would tell you how they wanted introduced, and so he would say I never, and his name was Richard Alphys was his real name, Dick the Bruiser, and he had originally taken Bobby Heenan on the road when Bobby was a young guy trying to support his family, and he'd run the ring coats and all this stuff and parked the car and did all those jobs to learn. And so
he was the brain.
Oh, he was the greatest guy ever. I mean, he's like my idol. And so they brought Dick the Bruiser came in, my Crusher, my cousin the Crusher. They used to put that over. They were related, and of course they weren't. But he said, "This is how I want introduced. I want to be introduced as the Man Too Tough for the NFL." And I said, whatever you say, man, we're gonna do. And in this corner.
Well,
yeah, and he played for the Packers, but so did Vern.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Vern played for the Packers too. So, but it was great stuff. I don't know, that was a different time, and I was a different person.
It sure was.
Oh, but
did you ever meet Haystacks?
Oh yeah, but I just in a glance. I never got to know those guys. I mean, they would be on the card. They were specialties. They were like Andre the Giant. You only
Now,
brought
where
him.
was he from? He was
Hang on.
from Stone Mountain, right?
Put it on. Put him on hold. Put him on hold. Put on hold. We'll continue. 710 KNUS. I'm Peter Boyles. It's a Saturday. Now you get to say it. Good afternoon, everybody. It is Saturday, July 5, 2025. Good old 710 KNUS. We are Denver's talk station. The weather, 90 and 90 and 90, 90, 90. Looking at the rest of the week, it's in the 90s. I have the Jeff and Bill show all next week, Monday through Friday, and then Saturday. And Adam's probably going to go for double time in the Union here at 710 KNUS. Time and a half, working extras. It has been a really, really, really funny morning, and I love talking about professional wrestling. We got a really good caller on the line. We started out talking about the gun laws, and we had Eric Escalante with us, and then Sheriff Reams was with us, and talking about the it's Ian Escalante. I'm sorry, talking about the gun laws, and then the sheriff came in and talked about it. We talked about the RFK, and now wants to end drug ads on television. We talked about the President Donald Trump wants UFC fights on the White House lawn, and who would you like to see fight? And that's been wonderful. Now it's turned to pro wrestling, which of course is near and dear to my heart. And this fellow knows what he's talking about. It's Brian, but it is open lines for anything serious or anything you want to just goof on. 303-696-1971. All right, Brian, we're back to you again, and I could have guys like yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I apologize to you. What I wanted to ask was, did you ever meet Jesse and Golden Boy?
Really, really, Jesse the Body?
Yes.
We got real close. When he was running for governor, when he became Jesse the Governor, he'd come on a radio show and fundraise. And I met him. I used to do nights at KHOW. I worked.
You did.
I worked at worked when I was doing a day job, and I got recruited to do the ring and to do the TV by Vern Gagne, and then I took the night job at doing 8 to midnight at KHOW. We were in the old Petroleum Club building, and when the guys would seriously, when they would finish the matches, they would come over and do the radio show with me, and it would get to the point where I always now we can talk about it. I'd bring in I'd bring in a bunch of beer on Friday nights when I did the show, and then they would bring in more than beer, and they would take over the show, and Heenan and I were already good friends, and
Bobby he was the best,
the very best. You have no idea. I mean, how terrific he was, and then Jesse had a tag team partner that was killed in a car wreck, and but Jesse would come over and literally take over the show. I mean, he had that kind of charisma. Bobby would come, and the first time he brought Ray Stevens with him. If you remember Ray Stevens?
Yes, I do.
And Ray Stevens was hilarious.
He was called the Streak.
Oh, he was hilarious. And
yes, he was.
Oh, he was. I mean, I can't tell you the stories. And then they would just and then when I got hired to go to KOA to work days again, then I went back and worked the ring again. But I always had like the best times when. And Bobby Heenan taught me, all the stuff to watch for, and Adam and I were talking about, like when you're getting to call the night, and my job was to time the match, and if they said it was, we had to be out of places by a certain time, and if not, it went over, then they had to pay extra money for the arena. So one of my jobs was to make sure that everybody knew what time it was, and and I would say there is 10 minutes left in the match, and I would say that on the microphone. They could hear it, and the ref could hear it, and so they knew to wrap it up. And
I didn't know that.
And they would say, you could hear, they'd say, "Let's go home," and when they said,
I didn't know that.
When they say, "Let's go home," it was like you went to the finish. And I would kind of halfway know the finishes, and as soon as you saw the finish, you know that, everybody has to get out of there. The heel has to get out of there. The cops have to take the heel out. The face would go out, on their own, and
I didn't know that.
yeah,
I didn't know that.
And one of the first nights I ever worked, it was, and my job was to get the microphone. I remember it was an Electro Voice microphone. I had to get it out of the, and I had the ring bell was red, and was on a red board, and it had a chain on it with a little hammer that you held the microphone, ding, 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 and rung it, and then I would go in the ring and do the announcements for who won or who was going to be, whatever was going to be. So
you had to get rid of the heel first.
Well, the heel, the cops had the heels, and the old auditorium arena, the dressing rooms they connected through the showers, and so the guys would be in there. And I was telling Adam these stories that the first time I really saw kayfabe broken was, and you brought him up, was Bobby Heenan going over what they were going to do with Tito, and because Tito was a face, and Bob's, of course, the ultimate heel.
But he was strong. He was as strong as you could imagine.
Well, he was telling Tito what the program was going to be that night, but that night nights I got broken in, and it was a screw job ending. And it was Heenan and Nick Bockwinkel and I think Jack Lanza, and they had going up against the Gagnes, but they had screw job won they're called screw job endings, or sometimes they're called swerves, and it ends differently.
I never knew that.
It's called screw job ending is when you think the babies are going to win, and suddenly the heels do something dirty, illegal, whatever it is, and they win. It's called a screw job. And so
I didn't know that.
They're getting the heels out, and my job was to get in the ring, and the place is going. People, it's before they broke kayfabe, and I had to get the microphone. That was my job, was the microphone, and this red board, the bell on it. And I had to get all. So I get in the ring, and I can't get the microphone. I can't get it to. I remember it was an Electro Voice, because I'm looking at Electro Voice, and we had enough cops. They were Denver cops, to get us out. And so when I finally got the part with the cord, everybody was gone. The cops had taken the heels out, and the cops had taken the faces out, and I had to get to the dressing room, and I'm trying to get through the crowd, and I mean people were quite upset about the ending, and I'm thinking, this is true. I don't think I've ever told this story. I'm thinking the pipes are leaking. I'm going through the crowd. I'm holding the board and the mic, and I got everything down, and people are trying to reach in and grab stuff, and I didn't have any good clothes. Not that I got good clothes now, but I had less than that.
Yeah, I don't either.
And I'm kind of punching through, and I'm thinking, they got broken pipes. The pipes are broke. Well, no, it wasn't.
Was it at the Coliseum?
It was, old auditorium arena. And it was beer, it was alcohol, it was spit. It might have even been something else that I wasn't even aware of. And I got drenched. And
at this point, it doesn't bother me.
And I got drenched, and I got to the locker room, and the cops were guarding the locker room, and they let me in, and I came in, and I must have looked terrible. And Heenan said, "Take your clothes off and throw them out. Never wear those clothes again." Well, that's all the clothes I had practically. And but he gave me a ring jacket that I still have that says Heenan on the back. And man, he said, "That's awesome." Yeah, he did. He gave me, like their sweats, and they were blue, and but I have a ring coat that says Heenan on it that he gave me.
That is awesome.
But I took a hot shower with all the guys to get that off me, and then the promoter, and that was Gene Reed, would get this big Rubbermaid barrel, and they'd fill it up with ice and beer because you couldn't leave. I mean, because people are waiting outside, right? You can do so. Everybody, so the faces that come over, and the faces that would come over and sit with the heels, and they'd all drink beer and laugh and talk and everything, and so that was.
Oh, seriously? They would. They would actually.
Yeah. Now they couldn't be seen because they hadn't broken kayfabe yet, so they couldn't be seen outside of the locker room.
Yeah, breaking bread.
Yeah, but they'd sit back there and drink beer and tell road stories, and then they one night they finally took me on the road, and we were in Casper. And Casper, Wyoming.
I know exactly where the venue is.
Where the troopers and all this stuff, and they didn't have any cops. I mean, there wasn't any ring guards or there wasn't anything, and it was another screw job ending, and that was really a rough night. And I got.
I wish I could have been there.
Oh, listen, I had the time of my life. And it was a lot of Native American guys were there, and they were marking hard, and I got punched, and I got the tux ripped. There was a guy here in town. It was a tuxedo guy. He was on Spear Boulevard. I can't think of his name, and he was a friend of Gene Reed's, and he was a stone mark, and he would give me tuxedos to wear when they decided I could stick around. And I had a rental tux on, a blue one, and I remember I got the shoulder ripped off the tux in Casper that night. But I mean, I always had and going on. Someday we'll meet, and I'll tell you the stories I can't tell you on the air.
The things we did when we were kids. You know,
I loved it. I know. My grandma marked, and my dad hated professional wrestling because it was beyond in Pittsburgh, and he would get really upset. And my brothers and I always watched pro wrestling. And then we'd do the moves on each other. And I had my one brother. He put the claw on you, man. He would like, it was the Baron. Yeah, well, the Baron. The Baron. Jim Raschke. That's the Baron's name.
Okay.
He was
Baron.
He was great. He was from Nebraska. He was a AAU.
Didn't know that.
Oh man, his last name was Raschke, and he was Jim. His first name was Jim Raschke. He was really, really. I mean, and then he would always. That is all the people would love to know. And he would do
the stomp.
Oh,
before the
cape.
Before the claw.
When I first met him, he was wearing a cape with an iron cross on the back of it, and he was like, and he was legitimately a badass. I mean, they all were, but he was a shoot. There were guys they called shooters, and guys.
I didn't know that. I don't know that until now.
A shooter was not. They still call it now. If it's real, it's a shoot. And they were enforcers, and every company had an enforcer. Billy Robinson was a shooter.
I know him.
Let's see. I mean, let's see. Wow, they had famous shooters that would enforce the will of the guy that owned the company, and they didn't know that. They would have the famous guys that would shoot, and that's when then they started in Japan. They called shoots, and the Japanese fighters. They would do shoot fights in Japan, and they were
willing.
Oh, it was called hard style, and they became. That's eventually where the Shamrocks were, and all those guys, and they were shoot fighters in Japan, and locally, Dr. Death, Steve Williams, and I got to know Steve when Steve got ill and came home off the road, and I really loved him, and he had a Harley, and we'd go ride. I'd take him on remotes with me. People would show up to meet Dr. Death, Steve Williams, and Doc fought in the shoots, and he and he said fighting in the shoots in Japan. He said that was like
because they would not surrender. They would not surrender.
Beat each other. They and these guys, they would come in and out of pro fighting, and they'd go to amateur fight, and then they'd go to pro wrestling, and they had all those Sakuraba and all those guys, legendary guys, that that, and then they came back and they would tell me stories about going to Japan, and the Japanese were totally different. They marked totally different than the U.S. And they told stories. They told me lots of stories about going to Japan, but Steve Williams, who was just the best guy in the world, and he got the name Dr. Death in high school, so gives you an idea. And when of how he was, but he was ill and he came home, and we had he used to tell you so many great stories about being in Georgia.
Yep.
And they were in, and him and the Junkyard Dog, and he played the white.
I remember him.
He played they're all gone. Those guys are all gone.
When I used to live in Macon, Georgia, they used to have a dog named the Junkyard Dog, and it was unbelievable.
Well,
I mean, it was loaded with coleslaw, pickles. It was in Macon, Georgia.
Well, those
and
guys,
it was called the Junkyard Dog.
If you went into the they called that place the Mid-South, and a guy that ran it, and you had to get pretty real down there, and because people in the South took it a lot. Well, they took it pretty serious in Denver, but
yes, they did.
But in the South, pro wrestling's like NASCAR, and Dog told me, he said, Death told me that he and the Junkyard Dog worked a program together where he was the white heel, and the dog was the black face. And he said they burned his van. He had a van. He said all tricked out that he could sleep in. He said,
I thought it would have been Haystacks.
They burned it. Well, Haystacks was a like a gimmick. He was. You brought him.
He was like 460 pounds or something like that.
Every interview you said, Haystacks, what did you have for breakfast? I had 9,000 eggs and 2 loaves of bread. That was about how much the guy ate, but he wasn't that. He was just a
heel.
Yeah, but people bought tickets just to see him. It was like bringing in the midgets. You did it, or bringing in women, or that kind of stuff back then. But they were. I'll tell you what. I don't think I ever had a better time. I mean, I had.
I wish I could have been there with you.
I just and you got then when Bobby died, man, it was like part of me. He was very, very instrumental in how I thought about this business and that business, and his dad abandoned their family, and it was him, his grandmother, and his mother, and I mean, he went to work, and he sold peanuts and popcorn at the shows, and really, truly, he was the kid off the bottom, and he had a family, and he lived in Florida. Before cable, he didn't wrestle outside. He wouldn't wrestle in Florida because he didn't want anybody to know who he was. He wanted to go out with his family for dinner at night, and he didn't want to get attacked. He stayed. But after that, they made great dough after that. Brian, thanks. You really helped me. Helped the morning.
Thank you. You made my day.
Well, thank you. That's kind. All right, everybody. Open lines continue on a Saturday. I'm Peter Boyles, 710 KNUS. Glenn Travis Campbell from Delight, Arkansas. 710 KNUS on a Saturday. Good afternoon, everyone. Lines are wide open for the first time since we started the show. Lines are there. You wanted to get on and you couldn't get through. 303-696-1971. Good afternoon, everyone. 710 KNUS and all of next week, Monday through Friday. I'm coming back, take over. The fellows are going on vacation, and the management said, Peter, would you like to do the show? And I said, sure. So I'll be here next week as well. 303-696-1971. Number of questions this morning, the gun laws and what good will they do and the purpose of them. Well, we had great guests on the radio show this morning to talk about that. And then the one that I thought would grab, and we'll bring it back on Monday, for decades, pharmaceutical companies have shelled out big bucks to broadcasters to put ads on. And now there's new policies being considered by RFK Jr. that could change that. And I didn't realize the U.S. and New Zealand, the only two places that allow pharmaceutical ads on TV. And we'll do that. And then, of course, Donald Trump wants the UFC fights at the White House. Who would you like to see fight? And that's really been good stuff this morning. I'll tell you about Danny Kaplis, and we'll go to the phones. Dan Kaplis Law. Danny suggests, and it's on the level, you choose a lawyer who shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says so much about you and everybody involved in the case. Dan Kaplis, of course, we talked about him growing up and his dad being a cop and everything that goes with that, and how he got through school, believed to be the only attorney in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Danny's also believed to have won the largest truck crash case in the history of the state. Kaplis Law, now the official law partner of the Nuggets and the Avs. And Danny, I've said this every time I do an ad for Dan, but it's true. When we needed help, he was our helper, and he smoked it. And Kaplis Law is a serious firm for serious people, and he's a caring man. He is the good man. You need help, 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or hit Dan Kaplis Law. Danny spells his last name Caplis, caplislaw.com. All right, here we go. We go to Terry. You're on a radio show. Good afternoon, brother man. Thank you.
Happy holiday weekend, Pete.
You too, man.
Yeah, it was a good day yesterday. Everybody, we didn't have any chaos, yesterday with the fireworks, which was good. People were setting them up, but I'm glad nobody had any. I don't think we had any major injuries.
No, I don't either.
I wanted to ask you, did you ever run into Ron Lyle?
Knew him well, very, very well.
Oh, you knew him? I didn't know that. Okay, I've always wanted to call and ask you about the fight with George Foreman.
The Heart of a Lion.
What a fight, huh?
Well, yeah. There's a book about him, and I'm in the book. I got so many good stories about Ronnie Lyle, but the one we talked about was the Ali fight.
Oh yeah, we already fought him. Yeah.
And the George Foreman fight. It was like the last man that could get back up. How many times?
It was an incredible fight.
Oh, I mean, I think Ron was down 4 times and George was down 3 or something. I forget, but Ron Lyle was a really interesting guy. He had murdered a guy when he was a kid, and he should have never been sent to an adult prison, but he was. And he'd been through it. He killed a guy in a joint, and he killed another guy. But that wasn't the side of the guy that I knew, but I knew who he was. And he used to come up do the radio show with me all the time, and we watched the Ali fight together. And he talked about the fight, and he said that when it was time to make the decision on the fight, who was the money guy? He says and they were in Vegas, and he told me this. He said it was Muhammad, and there was him. He was Ron Lyle from Denver, and there's Muhammad Ali. Who are they going to give the fight to? And it's a legitimate question.
Whatever happened to him, Pete? I know he passed, but did he pass in Denver?
Yeah, he had been stabbed in prison, and he had this heart issue, and they went to fix him, and he died on the table.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But he was, like I said, we did a night together. They used to have these fights that were that was cops versus firefighters, boxing matches, and oh boy, were they fun, and so the cops would put up their surveillance cameras that they used to watch people do dope deals and stuff, and they put the cameras up, and we were and Coors supplied the beer, and they could get the nights could turn nasty, and so they asked me to if I would do the play-by-play, and I never done play-by-play for a fight, and I said, sure, I'd love to try, and they said, well, we got you a partner, and I said, who is it? And they said, Ron Lyle. And I said, and that's really when I first got to know him. Well, that night was the night I got to know him. And you remember, and we used to call them apple hats, those great big hats that you see like a young Michael Jackson wearing, or they were just cool. They were like the Irish hats we wore when we were kids. And so Ron Lyle came in, had a leather coat on, he had the hat on, a pair of sunglasses. He sat down and thought, oh man, this is like, and he was great. I mean, we had a great night together, and it ended up, that's not a story for the air, but how it ended. But I learned that was the last time cops and firefighters fought. So I say that much. It turned into quite a night.
Well, I'll tell you, if anybody, I've tried to tell some of the young kids at work that like boxing, I've tried to tell them to go back and watch that. I mean, in my opinion, I know the Ali fight was interesting. I remember that, but that Foreman fight was one of the toughest fights I think I have ever seen in my entire life.
George Foreman, there was a guy that I really loved. I mean, I thought the world of George Foreman too, especially when he started coming back, and then when no one gave him a chance, and he's George Foreman. When he fought in Zaire, and that was a different George Foreman than reappeared years later. But there's all kinds of conversation about what happened in the Rumble in the Jungle and the Philippine fights. If you want the best boxing book I've ever read in my life, and I love fight books, there's a book called Ghosts of Manila.
Ghosts of Manila.
And Muhammad said, me and Joe were champions when we went to Manila, and we came home ghosts. They had hurt each other so bad, and it's just this story about those two men, and Joe really didn't like him. He really didn't like Muhammad because how Muhammad treated him, and he tommed him. I mean, he really did tom him. And in the meantime, George Foreman had saved him. He was broke, and there's this story about this car ride, and George and. He fought out of Philadelphia, and they had that gym, and he takes him for the car ride, and he gives Muhammad money because he knows that the money fights Muhammad, right. and then and everything that happened. But those I don't know. I don't know if prize fighting is anywhere near that. I think it's now gone to the UFC.
Yeah, it's not like when we were growing up. Like I said, when we used to get the fights every Saturday on Wild World of Sports. You remember all that? And I mean, remember when Norton broke Ali's jaw?
Absolutely.
Was that in San Diego? If you remember?
Yeah, because he had been a Marine, he broke his jaw, and then remember he beat the Acorn. He fought the Acorn, and
I'll never forget. Pete, I'll never forget when Lyle Alzado fought Ali.
I was there.
Oh, isn't that a wonder? And you can go back and look at all the pictures and stuff. It's amazing. That's amazing.
And Alzado actually thought, I know Alzado because of Berg and Alzado.
He was a nice guy. We knew him when we were in elementary school. He'd come visit us at the school, and he was he treated the kids great.
But he thought he was going to actually fight Ali. And listen, I'll tell you what, Alzado would rip anybody else apart. But if you watch that fight close, he comes on, he throws hard at Muhammad. It was supposed to be an exhibition.
Right.
And I don't know, there's a technique in the ring that you get under a guy's arms and you lift him and he can't punch. And, you get your body close to him and lift his armpits. And then he's lost his ability to hit. And Muhammad pulled him in and told him, "Yeah, how do you want to do this?" And he had tagged Alzado like about 3 times because he had that so fast, that right jab that was lightning, and he hit him, boom, 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 and then he moved in on him, lifted him, and said, "How do you want to do it?" And Alzado's looking cockeyed, and then Muhammad pushed him off, and you watch the rest of the fight. And it's an exhibition. But Alzado actually went in thinking he could. I believe that he thought that he could actually hit Muhammad or hurt Muhammad. And man, I mean, how good's good till you see good?
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah. I mean, exactly. It just. Yeah. Well, like I said, I've tried to tell all the kids that I work with to go back and watch the Ron Lyle George Foreman fight. I mean, I would recommend that anybody if they want to see a really, I mean, an incredibly tough fight. That I think that went 5 or 6 rounds, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And he had that was they called it the heart of the lion or heart of a lion. I think it was they were both so fierce.
Yeah.
That they can getting back up, and they always talked about the mark of a great champion is not getting knocked down, but is getting back up.
Right.
And Customato said that you're going to get. He tells when he talks about prize fighting, and I'm a big Cuss fan, and he said, everybody goes down. It's all in getting back up.
Who is the greatest fighter you think, Pete?
Sugar Ray, the original Sugar Ray Robinson.
And what year was that? Was that in the 50s?
No, he fought in the 40s and 50s. But,
okay.
But everybody, I mean, you read Burt Sugar and all the guys that are legendary historians, they all come in with Ray. And his real name was Walker Smith. And he took the name of Sugar Ray Robinson. And there's stories about him. He and Jackie Robinson were guys that were not going to put up with it. And there's stories about him. He was in the Army with Joe Louis in the Second World War, and the driver tried to put him in the back of the bus, and Sugar said no. And Joe probably would have done it, but Sugar said no. And he was just, and the Tony Zale fights, and he fought guys. He fought everybody. He was not afraid. And I did an hour on TV with Jake LaMotta. I got to meet Jake, and I was doing the television show in Denver, and the film was out. Raging Bull was out, and LaMotta, he was wonderful. I mean, he was like this incredible guy from my childhood. And so we talked about Ray, about fighting Ray, and he all of a sudden he realized that I probably knew a third of what I needed to know to do a really good interview, but I knew enough about prize fighting and about his fights, so he really lit up. And I said about fighting Ray Robinson, and he said he was a funny guy. He said, I got some, I can't do his voice, but he said I got so much sugar it's a wonder I don't got diabetes, from that thing where, remember in the moment in the film Raging Bull when he goes, "You didn't knock me down, Ray. You didn't knock me down."
Right. Yes.
I asked him about that, and I said, "Did you?" He said, "Yes, I said that."
What a great movie, huh?
Oh,
that was a great movie. I mean, it was just so well done.
And De Niro, he had him. I mean, he had him.
Yeah.
But LaMotta, and I'm sitting there and I'm going, I was like, wow, I'm sitting here with Jake LaMotta, and he had fought Tony Zale, he fought Sugar Ray, he fought everybody, and then he threw a fight. We talked about the fight that he threw, and he went in the tank so he could get the title fight. And I said, and he was in front of, I think, Congress. I think he had to testify that they brought him in because they were trying to break the syndicate on. We got a minute left in the show. Just a second. Oh, to make left in the segment, and he had to cop to throwing a fight. And
you're the best, Pete. You're just a historian, man. I always love calling you. You have a wonderful weekend, and you be safe. Thank you.
You too. All right, so we got to take a break. Folks on the phone, stay there. 303-696-1971. It is a Saturday, July the 5th, 2025. It's going to be 90 for the rest of the month. I got the show back Monday through Friday of all next week. Adam and I will be here. You ready, pal? All right, 303-696-1971. Let's pull the pin. Afternoon is 12:44, 16 minutes before the hour of 1 o'clock. Oh, Johnny Paycheck. Bob Lee and I emceed him, and he said his name was John Austin Paycheck, not Johnny Paycheck. Huh? Cool. 710 KNUS, 90, 90, and 90. Answer a bunch of text messages. In Ghost of Manila was Joe Frazier and Muhammad. That's what about that fight? Somebody said, who was the Acorn? Ernie Shavers was the Acorn. Text messaging. I don't know if advertising for cigarettes made a difference, but I remember 40 years ago, if you were around 100 people, 97 of them smoked. That's true. Now when you're around 100 people, maybe 2 smoke. That's really true. They're talking about this idea of taking pharmaceuticals off of television. Back to the phones. Jeff and Golden. Jeff, you waited. Thanks, and good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Welcome back. Are you ready for your week of work?
Your dream was your ticket out. Welcome back. Yeah. I mean, I haven't done anything like this for a while, so it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm excited. I am too.
You're
buddy.
kind. You're kind.
Hey, I got one thing I do want to watch is that fight. I haven't seen that fight with Alzado.
Oh.
And Ali. I've never actually seen it. I was born in '75, so I remember my mom had a purse of hers that she had autographed by Alzado.
Well, it was billed as an exhibition, and it was at Mile High Stadium, old Mile High.
Yeah.
And there was a jock in town by the name of Danny Davis, and Danny and Alzado were tight, and Alan Berg knew Alzado. And I had met him, and there was a bar called Alzado's in Cherry Creek, that place, and so I got to know him. I didn't know him well, but I knew him, and he really, I think, in his heart, believed that he could tag Muhammad, and what a shock he got, because he came out throwing punches, and Muhammad hit him like real lightning, as fast as he could, and he grabbed him. You can watch the fight. He lifts him, and I couldn't hear him talk, but as I was told later by a couple of people, that he told him, he said, "How you want to do this?" And after Alzado had seen that speed, I think he just said exhibition.
Let's get through this thing.
Yeah, I mean, and what's that thing about till you really see good?
Yeah.
It's good until you. Woody Page took me down on the sidelines at a Houston Oilers game, and I saw Earl Campbell, and he was the Tyler Rose. They said, what did your mom and daddy do? And he said they raised roses in Tyler, Texas, and he became the Tyler Rose. I saw him run over people.
Yeah.
I mean, and then we went in the locker room because Woody had a press pass, and I saw the guy, before he took a shower. He had legs like beer barrels. I mean, he was Earl Campbell.
Can you imagine being the guy to have to try to tackle him?
That was it.
Those guys have stories. You know what I mean? I'm sure being a smaller outside linebacker, and you see him coming, you're like, oh my God, I have to do it. I have to try it.
Oh. It's like guys that drew Mike Tyson as a young kid.
Well,
and if you ever see some of that stuff, they want nothing to do with him. Nothing to do with him. And he was that good.
A good fight that you need to set, just to switch channel, the fights you're talking about down on the Civic Center Park down there, something we could have.
Yeah.
Brittany Peterson and Bobard.
We've already that fight has been already booked. It's like,
they did already book that one. I'm late on
who do you got?
Oh, I don't know. I'd take Bobard.
Me
I would.
too.
Brittany's my representative. I mean, she's my fearless leader where I live, but I'm going to have to pick the other side.
She's Bobart's childhood. She was a tough little kid.
She seems pretty tough.
Oh, yeah. We're growing up with GED. My kind of people. You know, and
but Brittany Peterson, I think her mom was a
junkie.
So she might have a little rougher edges than we think. You never know.
That's the point of it. Is I think I'd take Bobert in the fight just because I don't know what the weight would be. You know, you got to make a book, but you know, and guys that make fights, the matchmakers, and that's one of the things in UFC that you really like that Dana White makes them. And what do you think of with Trump wanting the UFC fights in the White House? I think it's great.
I think it's great too. I think the guys. I was a wrestler. You know what I mean? And I was just watching the other day, and he was down at the NCAA's, you know, patting those guys on the back, and that's awesome. You know what I mean?
I think he
come
likes
on,
it.
people. You know what I mean? That guy's. He's really trying to be that guy. You know what I mean? You got to give it to him. Jeez.
Well, he goes to UFC. Remember, he was also at the UFC stuff, and they at the Trump Taj in Atlantic City. Trump and Dana White introduces Trump at the Republican National Convention. And that was really something. So
yes, it was.
And so Dana White, I mean, he's the man for the UFC. And we were talking about, you know, there's nothing that I've seen so far about anybody fixing anything in the UFC or anybody laying down in UFC. I'm sure they have, but when they go for fight of the night, you know, that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I mean, I hope he does it, and the television cameras will be there, and everybody be mad at him. And
sure, yeah.
Did you ever? Obviously, you have. You go and see those guys, and as I've said 1,000 times, until you really see good, you don't know. And then all of a sudden, you see it for the first time. You go, whew.
Yeah, or feel it. You know what I mean? Even in wrestling, at certain levels that I got to. You know, you'd get to certain guys that, you know, I'd won a bunch of matches, but then, you know, you see a guy, I don't know who this guy is, and all of a sudden, you know, then all of a sudden you get your ass handed to you.
That's exactly what, when I was a kid and we fought in the Hebrew Y, and I wasn't any good, but then you go someplace and see somebody, and you went, oh man, I hope, and they were good. They could do stuff to you like we wore those big head, you know, the head protectors, and they'd get their wrist and they'd turn the head protector, cover one of your eyes. Oh, I was telling my son about that, and I said they would do it intentionally. You didn't know how old they were, you know. Then when anybody looking at birth certificates, they were just banging you, and I think that was part of growing up. You know, it was like learning. Somebody's going to nail you.
Did you get a chance to see some fireworks?
I did. I stood underneath them. Chuck Bonnewell and Mike Donovan got me into the because I worked for the Chronicle. But Glendale had a party on Tuesday night, and we went, and that was great because we were right under the fireworks, and so I got to see them. And the rest, I didn't see anything last night, so that was.
You didn't see any last night, okay?
Yeah, I bagged. I had to get up. Had to go to work. You got to find a gig. Thank you very much. It was a wonderful morning. We're coming up on time. It's 12:53. How much? We got a minute left. Leanne Wheeler's here, who I work with Brother Jeff, and she's sitting on the other side of the wall. We'll be back here on Monday morning, and one of the things I like to really pursue is the pharmaceutical companies shelling out the big bucks to broadcasters, put the ads on the air, and only New Zealand allows that in the United States. And I like the one when the fellow sent the text that, hey, shutting down advertising, shut down smoking. And did it work? So we'll be there as well, and maybe continue with talking about the fights. Adam, you did a good job, and really appreciate everybody listening. It's fun to come back and do the job. And so Monday morning, I'll do the Jeff and Bill Show. Thanks to Sheriff Reams and to Ian Escalante for the show. We ready? We close? We can do it? Punch it up. I'll see you Monday morning. Tomorrow's Sunday. I'll see you Monday morning here on 710 KNUS.